You wake up to the sound of steam, not the comforting hiss of cocoa-scented Christmas dreams, but the violent wheeze of iron lungs gasping against a frozen sky. You blink. Snowflakes cut across your lashes like glass. The night isn't blue and magical. It's grey, suffocating, industrial. You realize that you're not in a movie. You're in 1885, and this train isn't animated by kindness. It's running on coal, desperation, and the illusion of control. The Polar Express, you remember, the one that smelled of marshmallows and belief, wouldn't have survived this storm, not even close, because in this version, the tracks twist like broken candy canes under the weight of real ice. The engineer isn't a whimsical hero. He's a man with frostbitten fingers, eyes hollow from 12-hour shifts, and the only magic he believes in is a working boiler. You try to move, but your wool coat has frozen stiff. The air inside the carriage feels like the inside of a grave. Each breath forms tiny ghosts that hover and die before your face. The lantern flickers. Then, a scream from the engine room. No music, no laughter. Just the metal groan of something enormous, failing under pressure. You grip the edge of the seat. The train lurches sideways. The Christmas bells you once loved, they're now alarms, high-pitched and hollow, echoing through a collapsing dream. The narrator in your head tries to keep the nostalgia alive. This is still the Polar Express, it insists. Believe. But belief doesn't stop the pipes from bursting. It doesn't stop the snow from burying the windows. And it definitely doesn't stop the fireman from yelling that the pressure gauge is redlining. You think about Santa, about warmth, cookies, lights, and realize that in this century he's probably freezing to death somewhere in Lapland, drafting bankruptcy letters to the elves. This isn't magic, it's survival. Outside, the storm howls like a choir of ghosts that forgot their lyrics. The conductor staggers through the aisle, his mustache dusted with frost. He mutters something about God and gravity, and you feel the floor tilt just a little more. Maybe it's the snow, maybe it's the rails. Maybe it's destiny slipping on ice. Whatever it is, you understand one thing clearly now. No child should have believed in this train, not the real one. Not the one that never made it past Christmas Eve 1885. But you're here now, and the whistle's about to blow one last time. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us keep the fire burning while the train freezes. And check the pinned comment. We found something buried in the wreckage. The whistle shrieks, a long trembling cry, half train, half dying animal. You clutch the window frame, and it bites your hand with metal teeth. Frost rips skin. Your breath fogs the glass, and behind it, the world vanishes. It's not snowing anymore, it's snowing knives. Each flake slashes sideways in the wind, tearing visibility to ribbons. The lamps outside swing wildly, their glow swallowed whole by the white void. Somewhere ahead, the tracks are bending. You can feel it in your bones before you see it. That subtle change in rhythm, that wrong heartbeat under the wheels. This isn't the steady chug of a Christmas miracle. It's panic disguised as progress. The engineer's voice cracks through the corridor, hoarse and hopeless. Pressure's dropping. We'll lose the boiler in minutes. You think of the hot chocolate scene from the movie. Silver trays, whipped cream, songs. But here, the only thing steaming is fear. The kettle's empty. The coal's wet. And the firebox groans like it's praying for mercy. The conductor tries to smile, his lips trembling like candle flames in a draught. He mutters, "Keep believing, lad." But belief doesn't shovel snow off the tracks. You glance at the passengers. Victorian coats, pale faces, eyes like marbles, smooth, round, useless. They're not singing carols, they're calculating odds. You can almost hear the math ticking in their heads. Speed X, ice X, despair. Fatality. The wind hits again, harder this time. The train shakes like a toy in the hands of a furious child. Something metallic snaps near the engine. The sound travels down the cars like a shiver. Every bolt, every joint, every screw seems to scream in chorus. Then silence, absolute terrible silence. For a moment, the storm stops breathing. You stare into the void outside, and it stares back, patient and infinite. It feels sentient. And in that pause, you understand what no one else dares to say out loud. The Polar Express was never meant to fly through this storm. It was designed for fantasy, not physics, for wonder, not weight. But wonder doesn't melt ice. It freezes with it. The train jolts again. A sudden hiss of steam burns your ears. The whistle blows 3 short notes, a distress code. The conductor yells something about brace for impact. You taste iron. You taste snow. You taste the end. Then just before everything tilts into white oblivion, you notice something impossible. A faint glow ahead, not from a town, not from the North Pole. It's flickering like it's alive. And you think maybe the storm wasn't what doomed the Polar Express. Maybe it was what it woke up. You don't remember the moment the train left the rails. You remember the sound, that impossible sound, like heaven's door slamming shut underwater. The world spins, metal screams, and snow turns red for a heartbeat. Then silence again. But this time, it's breathing. You open your eyes. Everything's upside down. Your seat is on the ceiling. The floor is a cracked mirror of frost and blood. Steam clouds roll through the wreck like ghosts returning to work. You can still hear the whistle, except it's not the whistle anymore. It's a low moan that vibrates through the wreckage. Alive. You crawl out from under a splintered bench. Your gloves are gone. The cold eats your fingers like a polite predator, slowly, methodically. Outside, the storm has settled into a white silence so thick it feels padded, like the world is wrapped in cotton and waiting for your next mistake. You call out, "Hello?" The sound doesn't travel. It's swallowed instantly. You start walking, past the broken engine half buried like a metal whale, past the passengers, still unmoving, eyes frozen open in disbelief. You don't let yourself count them. You just keep walking toward that light you saw before the crash. It flickers. Weak, yellow and wrong. Not fire, not electricity. Something older. When you reach it, you realize it's coming from beneath the snow. A hole. A perfect circle carved into the ice, edges melted smooth, glowing from within. You kneel beside it. The heat rising from it smells like sulfur and cinnamon, sweet but sharp enough to sting your eyes. A hum echoes through the ground, deep and steady, like a buried heartbeat. You whisper, "What is this?" And the ground answers. Not with words. With movement, the snow ripples outward in concentric waves. Then, a groan so low you feel it more than hear it. Something massive is waking beneath the tracks. You step back, stumble, fall. Through the white veil of the storm, you see the conductor, somehow alive, crawling toward you. His face is pale as chalk, eyes wide and unfocused. He shouts something you can barely make out over the hum. "Get away from the hole." Then the ground cracks. A line of light shoots toward the horizon, splitting the night like lightning. Steam hisses from the fissure, and from deep below, a metallic sound rises, rhythmic, mechanical, ancient. A second engine? No. Something far worse. The conductor whispers a name that shouldn't exist in this century. Belphegor. And then the light turns red. The red light pulses through the snow like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, ancient. You stare into it, hypnotized, and for a moment you forget that you're freezing to death. The conductor grips your arm with trembling hands. His skin feels thin, papery, almost translucent in the glow. He's muttering verses under his breath, something between a prayer and a confession. Every few words he glances at the hole as if it might answer. "What is it?" you ask. He doesn't look at you. His lips crack open. "Not what?" he whispers. "Who?" Then the ground convulses. Snow shoots upward in a geyser of fire and ice. You stumble backward as steam floods the air, thick and wet, tasting like burnt sugar and iron. The temperature rises so fast it burns the inside of your throat. From the pit, a shape emerges. Not fully seen, but felt. A series of gears turning in impossible directions. Pistons, chains, a furnace flickering inside a rib cage of iron. It looks like someone built a god out of a train engine, then buried it for good reason. The conductor screams, but the sound is drowned out by a roar that doesn't belong to any living thing. It vibrates through your chest, shaking loose every fragile piece of belief you still had left. The ground splits again. Beneath the snow, metal bones grind against each other, forming something vaguely locomotive, but wrong. Where there should be wheels, there are claws. Where there should be smoke, there's breath. Hot, wet, rhythmic. You whisper, "Belphegor." The name feels heavy in your mouth, like chewing on a piece of coal that remembers what it burned. The storm reacts to it. Winds twist backward, sucking toward the pit instead of away. Snowflakes hover in mid-air, caught in some unseen current. And the light, that hellish, pulsing glow, intensifies until you can see the outline of the thing's face. It's not a demon. It's not a machine. It's the ghost of progress. The Polar Express, stripped of magic and rebuilt with greed. The first industrial nightmare to wake beneath Christmas. Belphegor, patron saint of invention turned obsession. The conductor collapses beside you, gasping. Every Christmas engine, he says, runs on something sacrificed. You want to laugh. You want to wake up. But the truth hits harder than the cold ever could. You were never just a passenger. You were fuel. The thing exhales, and the snow melts in a perfect circle around you. The red glow dims, just slightly, as if it's considering what to do next. The conductor looks up one last time, and his frostbitten lips form a single word before the light takes him. Run. You do. But the sound that follows isn't pursuit. It's the engine turning over. The Polar Express is waking up again, only this time it's not taking children to see Santa. It's taking souls. You run. But snow is no longer snow. It's ash disguised in white. Each step sinks deeper, heavier, as if the earth itself wants you back. Behind you, the ground glows red like an ember field, and from it rises the unmistakable rhythm of a locomotive, not rolling on tracks, but breathing through the land. You can't hear the whistle anymore. Now it's a pulse, slow, mechanical, ancient. Every thud of it syncs with your heartbeat until you're not sure who's leading. You turn once, just once, and you wish you hadn't. The Polar Express is standing upright, a cathedral of rust and fire, its carriages stitched together by chains and frozen ribs. The front engine looks alive, iron eyelids flickering with molten light. Steam gushes from its jaw like breath from a beast. And inside the glow, faces, hundreds of them, pressed against the windows, silent, waiting. You trip over a buried rail and fall face first into the snow. When you look up, something glints beside you. A small brass ticket, half melted, engraved with words you can barely read. One way. You flip it over. The back says, Destination, unknown. Your hands shake. The ticket burns even through the cold, and that's when you realize it's not yours. It's still warm from someone else's palm. You hear movement in the distance. The conductor, or what's left of him, is crawling toward the tracks again. His uniform is charred, buttons glowing like dying coals. He lifts his head, and where his eyes used to be, two red embers stare straight through you. Tickets, please, he croaks. You stumble backward. He follows, slow, deliberate, dragging his shovel-like hand through the snow. Each step he takes leaves behind not footprints but small burning holes that sink endlessly into the ground. The storm starts again, but different now. The flakes fall upward. The sky cracks open like glass, revealing a swirling iron vortex above. Through it you see glimpses of other trains, ghostly silhouettes looping in infinite circles. The Polar Express was never alone. It was just the first to wake. You scream for help, but the sound folds in on itself, as if the world doesn't have room for your voice anymore. Then you hear a hiss, a whisper, soft, almost kind. All aboard. The ground beneath your feet vibrates. Steam swirls around your legs, warm and wet. And suddenly, you're not standing in snow anymore. You're standing in the aisle of the train. Everything's quiet, everything's clean. It looks just like the movie again. Gleaming brass, velvet seats, cocoa steam drifting through the air. Children laugh softly in the distance. For a moment, you think you made it. You think the nightmare is over. Then you notice something. Every seat is filled by versions of you. Everywhere you look, you. Dozens of you. Hundreds, maybe. Each one frozen mid-breath, eyes glazed like wax figures in a museum that forgot to close for the century. One version of you stares out the frosted window, another clutches a cocoa cup that never steams. They look peaceful, but their stillness vibrates with wrongness, like mannequins that could blink if they remembered how. You whisper, "What is this?" And all of them whisper back, a perfect echo in your own voice, layered like a choir of ghosts. You boarded too early. Your throat tightens. You back away, brushing against velvet seats that crumble like ash under your fingers. The illusion peels away in flakes. The gold trim fades to rust, and the cocoa smell turns sour, a mix of sugar and rot. The lights flicker. For a split second, you see what's underneath the velvet. Rib cages. Human, metallic, fused into the frame. The door at the end of the car slides open. Steam pours in, thick and red. The conductor steps through, but he's taller now, his shadow stretching from wall to wall. His uniform looks tailored from smoke, buttons glowing like embers in a dying hearth. He tips his hat, but the motion jerks, puppet-like, strings of molten iron pulling him from somewhere unseen. "Good evening," he says, voice layered, half human, half machine. "We are pleased to inform you that you made it aboard again." You stare. "Again?" He nods, smiling with metal teeth. "Most passengers ride twice, first for wonder, then for truth." He gestures to the window. Outside, through the frost, you see your original self, the one still running across the snow, desperate, terrified. Every step you take inside the carriage, that version of you outside falters, slows. You touch the glass. It's like touching the surface of a mirror that remembers pain. The conductor tilts his head. "Careful." The reflection bites back. You pull your hand away. Your palms covered in frostbite. Black veins spidering toward your wrist. The conductor chuckles. "Belief is contagious, you know. Once you believe in something long enough, it believes in you back." He steps closer, the floorboards groaning. His breath smells like copper and winter air. He leans in, whispers, "You wanted the magic of Christmas. Now you're part of it." A bell rings, clear, perfect, nostalgic. The train lurches forward. You fall into a seat. Outside, the storm bends around the engine like it's obeying a command. The conductor turns toward the front, calling out, "All aboard." The other passengers, all your faces, smile in unison. And somewhere deep inside the furnace, the voice of Belphegor hums a lullaby in perfect rhythm with the tracks. You try to scream, but when you open your mouth, steam comes out instead. The sound of the wheels becomes hypnotic. Clack, clack, clack. A rhythm too steady, too precise. It doesn't feel like motion anymore. It feels like looping. You glance out the window, the scenery repeats itself. Snowdrifts, a half-buried telegraph pole, a frozen fox. Then, the same snowdrift again, the same pole, the same fox. You're not traveling through the storm. You're circling inside it. Like a moth pinned to a lantern flame, thinking the light is freedom, you rise to your feet. Every head in the carriage turns toward you in eerie synchronization, every version of you. Their movements lag by a half-second, like reflections on broken glass. You step into the aisle. The nearest copy of you speaks, voice hollow and delayed. "Sit down. The ride isn't over." You shake your head. "It should be." The others echo in perfect unison, a choir of frostbitten voices repeating your own defiance. "It should be. It should be. It should be." Then silence. The air hums with tension, as if the train itself is listening. You push past them, moving toward the next carriage. The door creaks open, exhaling hot air that smells like tar and burnt sugar. You step through and freeze. The next car isn't a passenger coach, it's a factory. Steam pipes run through the ceiling like veins. Gears grind endlessly, oiled by something thick and red. And everywhere you look, machines are building things. Brass figurines of Santa, mechanical deer, tiny trains with eyes. And in the center, a furnace shaped like an open mouth, swallowing toys faster than it can make them. You step closer. Something's moving inside the flames. Small shapes, hands. Child-sized hands reaching up, then melting back into sparks. You stagger backward, bile burning your throat. The machinery hisses, and a voice whispers from the smoke, "Merry Christmas." A shadow appears beside the furnace. Not the conductor this time. Someone smaller, thinner, wearing a soot-stained nightgown and a conductor's cap far too big for their head. It's a child, or something pretending to be one. They turn toward you, smile too wide, eyes glowing the same red as the pit outside. "You missed your stop," the child says. "Ghost track number 9, where all the lost passengers go." You try to speak, but your voice won't come. Your tongue feels like lead, heavy with unsaid questions and unwanted truths. The child holds up a small object, your melted ticket. "Destination unknown," they say softly. But the train knows where you belong. The lights flicker. The furnace roars. And from the next car ahead you hear it, the faint sound of a bell ringing faster than any heartbeat should. You take a step forward, not because you want to, but because the train wants you to. You follow the bell's sound through the narrow corridor. Every breath you take leaves a trace of steam that lingers too long, like the air itself refuses to forget you. The child walks ahead, barefoot, leaving black footprints that sizzle into the floor. "Why are we still moving?" you ask. Your voice comes out fractured, doubled, half yours, half some echo stitched to it. The child shrugs without turning. The Polar Express never stops. It just forgets where it was going. You glance through the carriage windows. Outside, the snowstorm has changed color. No longer white, but gold, glowing faintly like dust caught in sunlight. You think it's beautiful, until you realize the flakes aren't flakes at all. They're ashes, and the things they're falling from aren't clouds. They're bodies, dozens of them, suspended upside down in the sky, hanging like ornaments, each one wrapped in chains of light. You stumble backward, but the child catches your hand and squeezes gently. Their palm feels warm, too warm. "They're not dead," they whisper. "They're dreaming." The train jolts. All the brass toys on the shelves rattle in rhythm with the tracks. The sound grows, sharper, faster, urgent, until it doesn't sound like toys anymore. It sounds like typewriters. You turn toward the walls. Sheets of paper are sliding from small metal slots, covered in handwriting you recognize immediately. Your handwriting, lines, paragraphs, letters you never wrote, but somehow remember writing. Apologies, regrets, confessions, all of them signed the same way. Passenger number 9. You grab one page and read aloud. "Dear whoever finds this, we thought the Polar Express would save us from the cold. We didn't know it was the cold." The ink bleeds as you finish, and the paper folds itself into a tiny origami train that starts to crawl away. You drop it, heart hammering. The child laughs softly. "They always write that part." You glare at them. "Who are you?" They tilt their head, and for a moment their face flickers. Not one child, but dozens, like every lost passenger flickering through the same body. "I'm the one who stayed awake," they say. "The one who watched it crash. The one who didn't get off." The furnace roars again behind you, throwing orange light across the car. The machinery hums louder, and the bell, that bright, perfect Christmas sound, starts to distort. It becomes a scream. The child's eyes widen. "They're calling us back," they whisper. "The passengers made of smoke, the ones who keep the train alive." You step back, shaking your head. "No, I'm not one of them." But when you exhale, your breath doesn't fog. It billows, thick, grey, and rising. You look down at your hands. They're starting to vanish, edges softening like melting wax. The child smiles sadly. "Too late," they say. "You're already burning." And the bell screams again, louder this time, pulling the train deeper into the storm. You run again, but this time it feels like running inside a nightmare you've already dreamed. The corridor stretches, shrinks, twists, then straightens out like a ribcage exhaling. Steam rolls across the ceiling, dense and scarlet, and for the first time since the crash, you realize the train isn't moving through space. It's moving through memory. You slam through the next carriage door. The air on the other side hits you like a furnace blast. Everything burns orange, the floor trembles under your boots, as if the heart of the train beats just beneath your soles. And maybe it does. Because at the center of this car stands an enormous boiler, the fire inside roaring like a caged sun. Pipes coil around it like veins, pumping liquid fire to every carriage. And through the heat shimmer, you see shapes, silhouettes, feeding it. Passengers, their faces soft as smoke, their arms stretching into the flames without pain, shoveling something invisible and glowing into the core. You stagger forward, eyes watering from the heat. "What are they burning?" you shout. A voice answers, not from the crowd but from inside the boiler. Deep, smooth, inhuman. Memory, belief, the warmth of every child who waited for Christmas morning. The fire flickers with every word, and you swear you can hear laughter within the crackle. Children's laughter, distorted and hollow like a recording played backward through a broken phonograph. The conductor emerges from the shadows behind the furnace, his hat gone, his head steaming with heat. His uniform now glows faintly red, seams pulsing like veins. "Welcome to the heart," he says, "the engine that keeps Christmas alive." You shake your head. This isn't alive. It's consuming everything. He smiles faintly, teeth shining like copper. Same thing, really. He gestures toward the glowing figures. They gave their warmth willingly. Everyone does in the end. You can't ride forever without paying the fare. The child appears again, standing beside him now, soot streaking their cheeks. "They paid for your belief," the child says softly, "for the stories that made you sleep, for the cocoa that kept you warm while they froze outside." You look closer. The faces feeding the fire. You recognize them. The old woman who told you Santa wasn't real. The friend who stopped believing too soon. The version of you who gave up on Christmas after your father left. All of them burning in the furnace, smiling. "You can't keep this running," you whisper. "It's not real." The conductor chuckles. "Reality's just a train schedule. Miss a stop and you start over." The heat intensifies. Your coat smokes. The air fills with the metallic tang of blood and peppermint. The child leans close, whispering through the crackle. "Every fire needs a heart. Yours burns brightest of all." The conductor hands you a shovel, its handle hot but bearable. "Your turn," he says. "Feed the fire." You shake your head. But your hands don't listen. They lift the shovel. They scoop the glowing coals and memories from the pile. Each one flashes an image before it drops into the flames. Your first Christmas tree. Your mother's laughter. The first gift you ever wrapped yourself. The furnace sighs like it's satisfied. The light turns gold and you realize you're starting to forget. The shovel feels heavier with each memory you throw into the fire. Not physically. No, this weight is worse. It's emotional, invisible, and ancient. You're not losing strength, you're losing self. Each glowing ember that leaves your hands takes a piece of you with it. The texture of your mother's sweater, the sound of paper ripping on Christmas morning, the way cinnamon used to taste before it burned your tongue. You blink and for a moment you can't remember why you ever boarded this train. Was it to escape? To dream? To believe? The conductor watches you, his face unreadable, glowing faintly in the firelight. "You see," he says softly, "belief is not free. It never was." He steps closer, boots scraping against the steel floor. "The Polar Express wasn't built for children. It was built from them." The words hit like ice water. You drop the shovel. It clangs against the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot through the car. The fire inside the boiler flares. Images dance within it, flickering snapshots of snow-globed villages, wooden soldiers marching, wide-eyed children running through frozen streets. They all blur together, melting into a single image of a tiny shaking hand holding a golden ticket. The fire hums. "Tickets, please." And then you see it. Hundreds of tickets swirling inside the flames, each one engraved with a name. Some you recognize, some you don't. All of them glowing faintly red, like tiny souls branded by warmth that once meant joy. The child steps forward, their skin flickering like a candle near its end. "They never told you the truth," they whisper, "about what happens when the magic runs out." You stare into their melting eyes. "What happens?" "They burn the believers," the child says, "to keep the engine warm." The fire roars in agreement, throwing sparks that burst into phantom snowflakes mid-air. You stumble backward, heart pounding so hard it feels mechanical. "No," you mutter. "That can't be real. This is a dream." The conductor smiles faintly. "Dreams are just unpaid debts of the mind. And you, my friend, owe quite a balance." The walls begin to pulse with light, each beat sinking to the rhythm of the train. You can hear its voice now, not in words, but in feeling. The Polar Express isn't a train. It's a living machine made of memory and regret, devouring warmth to survive another Christmas. The furnace flares again and the faces inside look at you, pleading. One of them, pale and half-formed, mouths your name. You reach for them. Your hand passes straight through the fire, and for the briefest second you feel everything. Every Christmas morning that ever was. Every wish, every prayer, every child's heartbeat. And then, nothing. Cold. Your fingers are blackened. Smoke rises from your palm. The conductor bows slightly, as if thanking you for your donation. The child's voice trembles. It's not too late. There's another way. You look at them, desperate. Tell me. They point upward, toward the roof of the car, where faint light leaks through a vent. Climb, they say, before the train remembers you're here. You look back at the furnace one last time. The fire pulses like a heart, steady, hungry, eternal. You whisper a silent apology and grab hold of the iron ladder bolted to the wall. As you climb, the conductor's voice follows you through the steam. No one escapes the Polar Express. You just find new tracks to burn on. And with that, the car door below slams shut, cutting you off from the fire and from everything you used to be. The iron ladder burns your palms as you climb. Each rung scalds like a confession whispered too late. You try not to look down, not at the furnace, not at the conductor's fading silhouette, and definitely not at the passengers below who've started to sing. It isn't a carol. It's a hum, low and rhythmic, a sound like coal grinding against bone. You climb faster. Your breath fogs in the freezing air above. When you finally shove open the hatch, the night hits you like a slap. Cold, endless, screaming. The roof of the Polar Express stretches before you, a metallic spine cutting through the storm. Snow blasts sideways, blinding white against a sky that doesn't look like sky anymore. It looks like a wound. You pull yourself up, gasping, boots sliding on ice-slick steel. The wind howls through the broken whistle, a distorted echo of the film's cheerful theme. You almost laugh. It's absurd. You're standing on top of a Christmas memory-turned apocalypse. Far ahead, a faint light pierces the storm, the front of the train, the engine. It glows gold, but not like fire, like something sacred. You can feel the hum of it through the roof, a vibration that syncs with your heartbeat. It's calling you. You start walking crouched low against the wind. Each step feels like crossing an invisible threshold, leaving behind the soft warmth of nostalgia for something sharper, truer, colder. Below your feet, the train groans. You can hear the machinery working beneath the metal skin, pistons pumping, gears grinding, all fueled by belief still smoldering in the furnace below. And with each groan, the landscape around you changes. The snow vanishes. The air grows thin. The sky deepens to a bruised purple hue. You glance over the side, and your stomach lurches. The train isn't on rails anymore. It's floating, suspended above an ocean of frozen clouds, its smoke trailing upward like a cathedral spire. You can see fragments of cities buried beneath the ice, their windows glowing faintly, the ghosts of Christmases long dead. A whisper threads through the wind. Soft, familiar. Keep going. You turn, but no one's there. Just steam curling from the vents, forming shapes that almost look like hands. You keep moving toward the golden glow. The air grows warmer, the snow gentler. The metal beneath your boots starts to vibrate faster, as though the engine senses your approach. Then, a flicker. The storm parts, and for the first time you see what's pulling the train through the sky. Not tracks, not wheels, chains. Dozens of them, each anchored into the clouds, glowing red where they vanish into the horizon. And at the center of it all, the source of the golden light. A heart of fire suspended above the locomotive, beating slowly, each pulse echoing through the storm. You realize too late that it's not an engine. It's alive. The closer you get, the louder it becomes. Not just the rumble of steel and flame, but something beneath it, something that breathes. The heart of fire suspended above the locomotive expands and contracts, each pulse pushing waves of heat that ripple through the blizzard. You can feel it in your bones. Every inhale draws the storm inward. Every exhale sends it screaming outward in concentric rings. You crawl forward, gripping the ice-crusted roof. Your fingers slip, bleeding where the frost tears skin. Below, through cracks in the metal, you glimpse movement. The silhouettes of the passengers still singing in that hollow mechanical rhythm. It's like the sound fuels the heart itself. The Polar Express isn't just powered by belief anymore. It's powered by sacrifice. You reach the edge of the first carriage and look down toward the engine. There, the conductor. He stands proudly at the front, hat gone, coat flapping in the wind, his face glowing faintly with molten seams. He's speaking to the fire, as if it's a deity he's served all his life. You can't hear the words, but you feel their meaning vibrate through the metal. A prayer, a promise, a plea to keep burning. The child appears beside him, barefoot on the steel, their face half lit by the golden glow. They're not a child anymore. They're becoming something. Their features softening into smoke, their body flickering between form and flame. You can barely hear their voice through the wind. They want to keep it alive, but the heart's starving. You glance at the glowing mass above. It pulses irregularly now, its light sputtering like a candle near the end. What happens if it dies? You ask. The child looks at you with eyes too old for their face. Christmas ends. You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's absurd. The idea that this infernal machine, this frozen hell, is what's been keeping Christmas alive. But then you remember the warmth of your mother's laugh, the smell of pine, the tiny spark that always came back each winter, no matter how cold the year had been. And you understand. Belief doesn't care what keeps it burning, only that something does. You look at the heart again. It's shrinking, the golden glow flickering into dull red. The conductor's voice cracks with desperation. The child's form begins to fade, drifting upward like a spark. And deep inside the furnace's glow you hear it, a whisper, soft but everywhere at once. Feed me. The heart is calling. You feel it pull at your chest, a magnetic ache deep in your ribs. Something inside you answers, involuntarily. Your pulse syncs with its rhythm. Your breath becomes steam. Your thoughts slow until you can barely tell where your mind ends and the engine begins. The child shouts, "Don't listen to it!" But you already are. The wind dies, the world narrows, and from somewhere deep within the storm, you hear the faint jingle of a bell. That's when you understand the truth. The Polar Express doesn't take passengers. It recruits them. You look down and see your reflection in the metal roof. Your eyes glow gold. The jingle echoes through the storm, faint at first, then louder, clearer, as if it's coming from inside your skull. It's the same cheerful bell you remember from childhood. The one that used to mean joy, innocence, hot chocolate, safety. Now it sounds like a countdown. You drop to your knees, gripping the roof as the wind whips around you. The light from the burning heart pulses faster. In sync with your breathing, your heartbeat, your memories. Every pulse drags another fragment of your past to the surface, then erases it in a blink. Your first Christmas morning, gone. Your grandmother's perfume, gone. The warmth of your childhood home, gone. The heart isn't just calling you, it's copying you, imprinting your warmth into its firebox, rewriting the memory of who you were into something eternal and mechanical. Below, you see the conductor raise his arms toward the sky. The chains anchoring the train to the clouds rattle, glowing brighter with every pulse. He's chanting something, a language older than steam, older than belief. You crawl closer to the edge, peering down through the smoke. The child is kneeling beside him, hands over their ears, mouthing words you can't hear. The conductor's voice rises, harsh and triumphant. All who believe become the flame. The chains tighten. The entire train groans like a wounded animal. Steam bursts from the vents, shooting upward in spirals that form faint human shapes, faces you recognize from the passenger car. They scream silently, then dissolve into vapor. You feel the pull again, stronger this time. Your veins burn gold. Your breath tastes like smoke. The heart wants you. It needs your warmth to stay alive. You crawl toward the engine, fighting the invisible gravity trying to drag you forward. The metal sizzles under your hands. The snow around the heart has turned to boiling slush. And from within the glow you see a figure taking shape. Tall, skeletal, regal. A body sculpted from molten brass and frozen breath. Belphegor, the demon of invention. the god of fire disguised as progress, the one who traded magic for machinery. He opens his eyes, twin furnaces burning behind a mask of smoke. When he speaks, it isn't sound but vibration, a deep resonance that shakes your bones. The warmth of belief has cooled. Bring me a new fire. You can barely breathe. Your body feels like glass about to shatter. The child shouts something. You think it's your name, but the wind tears it away. You take another step forward, drawn by the gravity of the thing. You can feel its hunger like static against your skin, and then for the briefest moment, you see the reflection of your face in the metal. But it's not your face anymore. Your eyes are hollow furnaces. Your mouth exhales steam. Your body flickers like heat over asphalt. You realize what the conductor meant. You're not escaping the Polar Express. You're becoming it. The bell jingles again. The world flashes white, and your body begins to dissolve into mist. The last thing you feel is warmth, a warmth so deep it's almost mercy. Then nothing but smoke. At first you think you're dying. The warmth, the glow, the weightlessness. It feels like surrender. Then the world sharpens. You're still there, somewhere, but dispersed, spread thin through metal and motion. You can feel the wheels turning below you. Each rotation sends shivers through what used to be your veins. You don't breathe anymore. You hiss. Steam escapes your chest in rhythm with the pistons. Every vibration is both heartbeat and heartbeat's memory. The heart above still burns, its golden light pouring through your body like molten honey. You see it differently now. Not as an engine, but as an organism. Every carriage a lung, every gear a bone, every passenger a neuron firing belief into the dark. You understand it now. The Polar Express isn't a train. It's a living relic, a cathedral of memory consuming itself to survive. And you are its newest nerve. You drift through the metal corridors as smoke, watching scenes replay like old film strips burned at the edges. A mother hugging her son before sending him to the station. A boy clutching a ticket in mittened hands. A conductor smiling warmly. Before his eyes turn to embers, each moment flickers in and out of view, trapped forever between nostalgia and nightmare. You pass through a window, hovering above the frozen landscape below. The city's buried beneath the ice pulse faintly, as if remembering their own lost holidays. You see spectral lights, houses decorated, carols echoing through silent streets, then fading, replaced by black frost. Everything the world forgot, the Polar Express kept. Every flicker of joy, every laugh that once warmed the cold, now beating inside its mechanical heart. Through the storm, a new sound rises. Not the whistle, a voice, familiar, childlike, terrified. Help me! You swirl toward it instinctively. It's the child, the one who guided you through the furnace. They're clinging to the edge of the roof, half vapor, half skin, the storm tugging at them like a greedy hand. You try to reach out, but your arm isn't an arm anymore. It's steam slipping through everything it touches. Please, they scream. They're taking me too. Below, the conductor stands at the edge of the engine, watching with hollow reverence. He speaks softly, his voice calm and terrible. Every believer must burn, even the ones who tried to wake up. The child looks up at you, eyes pleading. Don't let it take me. But you can't speak. Your voice is the hiss of pressure, the groan of metal. You can only feel the ache of wanting to save what you already destroyed. The heart flares brighter, casting everything in molten gold. The child's form shatters like glass, dispersing into a million sparks that join the fire above. You reach for them, and the moment your steam touches their fading glow, something happens. The heart skips a beat, just one. The light flickers, the chains tremble, and for the first time since you've been aboard, the train hesitates. A crack forms in the sky ahead, thin, glowing white like the edge of dawn slicing through night. And somewhere, beneath the roar of the storm, you hear another whistle, a different one, gentler, calling from beyond. Maybe another train. Or maybe another chance. It starts faint at a single trembling note rising above the storm. Not metallic, not mechanical. Human. The kind of sound that doesn't demand attention. It invites it. A second whistle echoing from somewhere beyond the clouds. The Polar Express shudders. The heart above the engine skips again, its light dimming from gold to a sickly amber. The passengers below stop singing. Their voices fall silent all at once, as though every ghost aboard has turned its head to listen. That sound, that gentle, perfect tone, it feels like something you've forgotten for decades, like the laughter of a home that still smells like pine, like the moment before belief curdled into fear. The heart pulses slower, and for the first time, the train hesitates. You can still feel everything, the vibration of the steel ribs, the rush of wind through broken windows, the conductor's hollow footsteps pacing at the front of the engine. But beneath it all, a new rhythm hums, softer, deeper. It doesn't come from the train, it comes from beyond it. You drift toward the sound, through the roof, through the storm, a ghost of vapor and memory chasing warmth. Below you, the Polar Express looks smaller now, its glowing chains sagging, its engine coughing sparks like a dying lung. The bell no longer jingles, it tolls, slow and mournful. And through the snow you see something impossible. Another train, it's darker, not black but the color of old paper soaked in ink. Its windows flicker with blue light, cold and still. No steam, no furnace, just silence. And on the front of its engine, carved into steel like scripture, 2 words glow faintly: final stop. It glides toward you soundlessly, cutting through the storm like a blade through fabric. No tracks, no smoke, just inevitability. As it draws closer, you feel something stirring inside the Polar Express. Panic. The heart brightens again, thrashing in the sky, chains pulling taut as it tries to accelerate away. The conductor roars below, his voice booming through the night. Stay aboard, stay aboard. The other train's not real. But you know he's lying, you can feel it, the same way you can feel the difference between warmth and fire. The second whistle sounds again, 2 long, 1 short. An invitation. You push forward through the gale, but the wind claws at you, pulling at your vapor body, trying to anchor you to the Polar Express. It wants you to stay, to keep burning. You look back once more. The heart writhes in the air, its glow flickering between gold and red. The conductor is kneeling now, arms outstretched, shouting into the storm. His hat flies away. His voice cracks. The child's voice, faint but still alive inside your mind, whispers, "That's not a train. It's the way out." You face forward, toward the dark locomotive gliding through the storm. Its windows open one by one, revealing no passengers, just seats filled with light. And on the front steps, a figure in white waits silently, hand extended. No ticket, no demand, just a gesture. Come. You take one final breath, if steam can breathe, and hurl yourself off the roof. The wind howls. The Polar Express roars behind you. The heart screams your name. But the second train's light catches you mid-fall, soft, blue, endless, and the storm falls away. The fall never ends. The air thickens, folds, and finally gives way to stillness. No wind, no sound. Just a low hum beneath everything, like the heartbeat of the sky itself. You open your eyes, if eyes are what you still have. You're inside the second train now, the final stop. Everything is blue here. Not the warm glow of fairy lights, but the cool hue of forgotten dreams. The kind of blue that makes you think of the world before humans invented fire. Rows of empty seats stretch into forever. Each one flickers faintly, as if it remembers someone who once sat there. The air smells like rain and iron, but beneath it, a sweetness, like cold cocoa never poured. You take a hesitant step forward. The floor doesn't creak, it ripples. Every movement leaves faint waves of light, like stepping across a frozen lake that reflects nothing but memory. And at the far end of the carriage, the figure in white waits. They aren't the conductor. They aren't anyone. They're blank. A shape made of light that feels like compassion, like the sound of your mother's voice when she said everything would be okay. You try to speak, but words dissolve into vapor. They tilt their head, and though there's no face, you feel seen, completely, achingly, for the first time since you boarded the other train. They raise a hand, and the walls of the carriage shimmer, turning transparent. Through them you see both worlds at once, the Polar Express behind you, still thrashing through the storm, its golden chains pulling it in circles of its own design. And below it, the frozen earth, littered with the remains of other trains, each one rusted, forgotten, their passengers nothing more than drifting smoke. You whisper, "Why me?" The figure doesn't answer with words. Instead, they reach out, and from their palm a small light flickers into existence. A tiny brass bell, unburned, untouched. It rings once. The sound cuts through you. Every part of you that was mechanical, every cog and hiss, melts away into warmth. Suddenly, you remember everything you'd lost. The scent of pine, the warmth of blankets, the laughter that filled the air when you believed, truly believed, that magic could be gentle. Tears, or something like them, form and drift upward, turning into faint sparks that vanish through the roof. The figure steps closer, their voice, soft, low, endless, whispers inside your chest. Belief doesn't need fire to live, only light. You look toward the window again. The Polar Express has slowed. Its golden heart flickers weakly, its chains slack. You realize the truth. You weren't supposed to destroy it. You were supposed to forgive it. The second train hums louder, and suddenly you're standing in both at once, half shadow, half light. You see the conductor looking up at you, his ember eyes wide with confusion. The child's voice echoes faintly, half joy, half sorrow. It's ending. You lift your hand. The bell rings again, and the Polar Express begins to fade, its fire dimming, its chains turning silver. Not destroyed, redeemed. The figure in white nods once, then turns toward the window, where dawn begins to bleed through the last of the storm. You follow, and as the first sunlight hits the glass, the final stop dissolves into brightness. No smoke, no sound, just quiet, and the faint jingle of a bell that means for the first time you're finally free. Light, just light. It floods your eyes, your thoughts, your very shape. Not warm, not blinding, just infinite. When it fades, you find yourself standing in snow again. But this time it's real snow. Soft, quiet, imperfect. Not ash, not memory. The kind that squeaks under your boots and tastes faintly of metal and purity. You look around. No train, no chains. No sky wound open with gold and fire. Only the horizon, pale pink with dawn, and a single trail of footprints that lead away from where you stand. They're yours. Every step, shallow, hesitant, as if the ground is testing whether you deserve to walk it. You breathe. For the first time since forever, your breath fogs the air and disappears. It doesn't linger, doesn't echo, it simply fades. The way life should. In the distance, a sound. Soft, repetitive, comforting. Wind chimes. No. Bells. But not the furious ringing of the heart. Not the machine's hungry song. This is gentler, human. It drifts across the snow like laughter. You follow it. The footprints lead you through a forest of frostbitten pines. Branches hang low, their needles glittering like glass. Somewhere in the distance, smoke curls from a chimney, thin, grey, alive. A house stands there, crooked and small, its windows glowing amber through the frost. You step closer, each crunch of snow echoing in a rhythm your body remembers before your mind does. Inside, silhouettes move, slow, domestic, human. Someone stirs a pot, someone laughs, someone hums, silent night. You reach the door. Your hand hesitates on the knob, half afraid that touching it will shatter the illusion, half afraid it won't. You push it open. Warmth spills out, the kind that doesn't burn, the kind that asks nothing in return. Inside, a family sits around a fire. Their faces are soft in the glow, their voices a melody of comfort. They don't notice you at first. You stand in the doorway, trembling, steam rising from your coat. Then the youngest child looks up, wide-eyed, smiling. They tilt their head, curious. Are you cold? The question hits harder than the wind ever did. You open your mouth to answer, but no words come. Instead, you reach into your pocket and find the brass bell. It's whole again, untarnished, still warm. You kneel, placing it gently on the hearth. It rings once, clear, bright, perfect. Every sound in the house stops. The fire flickers, the air hums, and for one fleeting second, you see them, the passengers. Not burned, not trapped, but walking through the snow outside, smiling, waving, finally at peace. You close your eyes. The warmth fills you completely, not from fire, but from memory. You whisper, barely audible, "Thank you for the ride." Outside, the last gust of the storm drifts past the window, and in the faint echo of its passing, you could swear you hear a train whistle, soft, distant, content, not calling, not hunting, just passing by. The whistle fades like a sigh, long, gentle, almost grateful. You step outside the little house, boots sinking into snow that glitters like powdered glass under the new light. The forest is still. Only the faintest breeze stirs the trees, making the icicles clink like glass bells. You breathe in deeply. It smells of smoke, pine, and something new, something clean. In the distance, a single rail gleams through the snow, half buried, forgotten by time. No train, no passengers, just a ribbon of iron cutting across the white. The sound of the house behind you fades. The family's laughter melts into silence, as though that warmth belonged to another world entirely. You follow the track. Every step feels lighter now. The ache in your chest has gone quiet. The sky above blushes with gold, the storm finally breaking open into color. You think of the Polar Express, the fire, the chains, the conductor, the child's frightened eyes, and realize it wasn't a curse. It was a warning. Belief left unattended always turns mechanical. Magic without mercy becomes fuel, and maybe that was what Belphegor had always wanted. Not faith, but repetition. You stop walking. Your reflection stares back at you from a puddle of meltwater. Your eyes are your own again. No glow, no gold, just human. A whisper threads through the wind, faint but familiar. You brought it back. You look up. The second train, the final stop, glides across the sky above, silent and shining, its windows now filled with faces smiling down. The passengers you freed, the ones you forgave. The child stands among them, pressing a small hand to the glass. You wave. They nod once, and then with a shimmer like snow evaporating under sun, the train dissolves into light. The world is quiet again. You walk a little farther along the track until it disappears under the snow completely. No end, no beginning, just white and warmth. You sit down, close your eyes, listen. Somewhere deep beneath the frost a hum still beats, the echo of a furnace heart that learned how to rest. You smile, because maybe that's how Christmas really survives, not through fire, not through ghosts, but through the quiet forgiveness of those who once burned. The wind picks up. You hear sleigh bells this time, soft and human and close. You turn. A figure walks toward you through the mist, coat flapping, hat pulled low, a familiar silhouette that shouldn't exist anymore. The conductor. Only this time, his eyes aren't embers. They're kind. He tips his hat. "You made it," he says. Voice gentle, almost proud. Most don't. You stand, half afraid, half in awe. "Where does it go now?" you ask. He smiles. "Wherever belief remembers to breathe." He starts walking away, fading into the morning. You watch until he disappears completely, just a shape swallowed by light. You take one last look at the sky. It's clear now. The storm's gone. A single bell rings behind you, the one you left on the hearth. And though no one sees, you smile, because you finally understand. Not every journey ends in fire. Some end in peace. And this time, the Polar Express kept its promise. Days pass, or maybe it's hours. Time feels soft here, like snow left under a gentle sun. You wander through the quiet landscape, a world stitched back together from memory and mercy. The storm never returns. Neither does the train. But every morning, when the light hits the frost just right, you swear you see the faint glint of rails far in the distance, as if the tracks are still there, waiting for a story that no longer needs to be told. You walk. Your boots crunch through the snow. The sound is rhythmic, soothing. For the first time since 1885, since the crash that should have ended everything, the silence feels safe. But silence, you realize, isn't emptiness. It's a canvas. The air hums softly, alive with echoes of laughter and bells. Each gust of wind carries whispers of names, the passengers who once burned. They aren't crying anymore. They're singing. You stop by a frozen pond, its surface glassy and perfect. Beneath it, lights flicker faintly, tiny golden sparks drifting upward like trapped stars. You kneel and touch the ice. It's warm. For a heartbeat, you see reflections that shouldn't be there. The conductor tipping his hat, the child waving, the train curving through the clouds like a scar healing itself. Then with a sigh, the image fades, but it leaves something behind, a feeling that maybe Christmas doesn't need to come once a year. Maybe it's what happens when something frozen decides to forgive itself. You build a small fire, not out of coal or wood, but from the kindling you find within yourself. A spark of patience, a flicker of gratitude, a hint of wonder. It burns steady and soft, casting no shadows. As you sit beside it, you pull the brass bell from your pocket. It still shines, untarnished, its tiny inscription clearer now under the morning light. Those who remember, arrive. You ring it once. The sound ripples through the forest, shaking frost from branches, sending flurries dancing like confetti. Far off, something answers, not a whistle, but a deep, resonant heartbeat. It's not the Polar Express, it's the world, alive again. Behind you, footsteps approach, soft, familiar. You turn and see a small group walking through the trees, families, children, travelers, each carrying a faint glow in their chests, like tiny lanterns. They nod as they pass, each of them touching the bell gently, as though it's a relic, a promise made and finally kept. Where are you going? You ask. One of them, a little girl with frost in her hair, smiles. Home, she says simply, and her voice sounds like every song you thought the snow had swallowed. You watch them fade into the horizon, their lights merging with the dawn. You realize then, this isn't a second chance. It's the sequel to believing. And for the first time you feel the air shift, not from heat but from hope. The morning stretches long and golden, the snow no longer blinds, it glows. You sit beside your soft burning fire, listening to the bell's echo fade across the valley like a lullaby sung to the land itself. But then, a faint vibration hums through the ground. Not thunder, not a storm, something deeper, older. You press your hand against the snow. It's trembling. From far beneath the frozen crust, a sound begins to rise. Faint at first, then layered. Hundreds of small chimes ringing in unison. Not chaotic, not fearful. Deliberate, precise. The song of the Polar Express. Not the train, but the memory of it. You close your eyes. The music swells, not like machinery grinding metal, but like choirs of ghosts learning how to sing again. The snow cracks slightly, a fissure spreading across the pond where the faint golden lights still drift. And from that crack, a small puff of steam escapes, warm, fragrant, alive. You smile. It doesn't scare you anymore. The train's not returning to claim anything. It's breathing. You kneel, brushing frost from the edge of the fissure. Inside, the glow pulses faintly, soft, steady, almost like a sleeping heartbeat. You whisper to it, "It's okay now. You can rest." The bells beneath the ice ring once more, a single perfect chord that resonates through the ground, up the trees, across the horizon. It feels like the world exhaling. And then, silence. A real, earned silence. The ice seals itself. The glow remains, faint but enduring. Not a warning anymore, a memory. You sit back, watching the forest return to stillness. Sunlight catches on the icicles, splintering into tiny rainbows. It hits you then. The Polar Express didn't die. It didn't burn or vanish. It simply became part of the season. Every frost that bites your fingers, every candle that flickers on a quiet night, every soft hum you hear when the snow falls just right. That's it. Still running, still carrying the remnants of warmth we leave behind. And in some strange, forgiving way, so are you. You pick up the bell again, rolling it gently between your palms. Its sound has changed. No longer bright and sharp, but soft, like a whisper that remembers your name. You hold it to your chest. It feels warm, alive. For a long time you sit in silence, the snowflakes melting as they touch your skin. And in that quiet, you realize something simple and final. The Polar Express didn't crash in 1885. It arrived, right here, right now, in the quiet heart of a world that finally learned what warmth means. You stand, turn toward the horizon, and see the faint glint of a silver rail vanishing into the sunlight. No smoke, no fire, just light. You start walking again. The bell jingles once in your hand, and the sound carries on the wind, not to summon but to remind. Somewhere far above, a whistle answers, soft, distant, eternal. And for the first time in forever, you smile. By the time the sun sits high above the frost line, the world feels rewound, not erased, not replaced, just gentler, like time itself took a deep breath. You find a ridge where the trees thin out, their branches reaching skyward like fingers that forgot what they were asking for. Below, the valley stretches wide and white, a canvas untouched since the storm. You kneel, the snow squeaks softly under your knees, and without knowing why, you start to write. Not words, names. One by one, you carve them into the snow with the edge of your gloved hand. The passengers, the child, the conductor, even Belphegor, because mercy, you realize, doesn't pick sides. Each name glows faintly for a moment before fading, absorbed into the snow like prayers whispered into sleep. You keep going, dozens, hundreds, until the valley looks like an alphabet spilled by heaven. When you finish, you sit back and watch the wind move across the surface. It doesn't erase the names. It carries them, lifting the powder into tiny spirals that drift upward, vanishing toward the bright sky. Somewhere in that blue distance, you imagine those names landing, settling into the clouds, etching themselves onto unseen rails that circle the horizon. You smile because it means the story didn't end with you. It scattered. It lived. A glint catches your eye, a thin strip of brass half buried beside your boot. You dig it out carefully. It's a ticket. The print is faint, nearly erased by time, but when you hold it to the light, the words appear, "Admit one to wherever forgiveness goes." You laugh under your breath. It sounds small but real, the kind of laugh that's been missing from your voice for a century. As the wind grows softer, you notice movement near the tree line. A figure, tall, steady, walking toward you. You rise, hand instinctively tightening around the ticket. But as the figure nears, you see it's not the conductor this time. It's a woman. Her coat is simple, her boots dusted with frost. She carries no lantern, no luggage, only a handful of pine branches tied with twine. "Hello," she says, as if meeting you was expected. "Were you the one who lit the fire?" You nod slowly. She smiles. "I saw the smoke this morning. It's been years since this valley had smoke." You hesitate. "Do you live here?" Her eyes soften. "Not always, but sometimes I come back when the snow starts to whisper." You follow her gaze toward the horizon, where the faint shimmer of the old tracks runs beneath the ice. She kneels, placing the pine branches on the snow. "For those who didn't make it," she murmurs. Then she looks up at you. "You can leave now, if you want." You blink. "Leave?" She nods. "Everyone does, eventually. Once they've learned what the journey meant." Her words hit like a forgotten truth. The cold doesn't sting anymore. The light doesn't blind. You feel weightless again, but not hollow this time. Ready. You look down at the brass ticket in your palm. It glows faintly. You can almost hear a train in the distance, not loud, not urgent, just waiting. The sound grows clearer, a whistle, soft as a sigh. You turn toward it, and through the veil of falling snow the tracks shimmer again. No smoke, no heat. Just a faint silver glow stretching endlessly into the horizon. The woman stands beside you, watching the light form between the pines. Her breath curls upward in perfect rhythm with the wind. "It's coming," she says quietly, "but not for you to ride, for you to remember." You frown. "Remember what?" She smiles gently, and for a heartbeat the snowflakes that touch her hair glint gold, as if the morning itself is bowing to her presence. "That even when belief burns down," she says, "something softer always grows in the ashes. Not magic, meaning." The air hums. The rail ahead gleams brighter, and slowly, silently, a train materializes. It doesn't roar. It arrives. Dark silver, frost-coated, silent as moonlight. No chains, no heart of flame. Just light running through its seams, pulsing gently like a heartbeat asleep. You step closer, boots crunching softly in the snow. Each carriage door glows with faint symbols that shift as you approach. Not words, not letters, memories. The laughter of the passengers you freed, the child's face as they smiled one last time, the conductor tipping his hat. The doors stay closed. No summons, no all aboard. This train doesn't take passengers. It carries stories. You glance at the woman. She nods once and her outline begins to blur. Tell them what you saw, she whispers, before the snow forgets again. You open your mouth to ask who she is, but her voice cuts through your thought, gentle, knowing, certain, someone who believed long enough to let go. And with that she fades, a swirl of frost caught in the light, melting into the breath of the world. You stand alone again, but it doesn't feel lonely. The train hums softly before you. A single door slides open, revealing nothing but warm light and the faint scent of cedar and snow. You hold up the brass ticket. It shines like sunrise. You don't step inside. Instead, you place it gently on the snow beside the rail. The train's light flares once in acknowledgement, as if bowing, then closes its door. The whistle sounds again, a note of completion, not departure. And slowly, the train begins to fade. Not into distance, but into memory. The tracks dim behind it and the valley is quiet again. You watch the last glint vanish into the horizon. For a long moment you just stand there listening to the stillness. Then you smile, small, real, the kind of smile born not of joy, but peace. You whisper into the air, "Goodbye, my Polar Express." And the wind answers softly, carrying your words away on invisible rails. You turn back toward the world. The snow crunches underfoot. Each step leaves a trail that sparkles briefly before fading, like handwriting on light. Behind you, the faint jingle of the bell rings once more, not to summon, but to bless. You keep walking, forward, always forward, because the tracks no longer lead to a destination. They are one. You walk until the snow turns to mist and the mist becomes light. The forest dissolves behind you like an old film reel burning at the edges. Every step feels lighter, as though the earth itself has stopped weighing your feet. The world isn't gone, it's changing. The horizon bends upward, a slow curve of gold and pearl that looks less like sky and more like a doorway built from morning. You pause at its threshold. Your reflection hovers faintly in the light. Not steam, not smoke, but a silhouette of someone who has survived belief itself. For the first time, you're not afraid of what comes next. You sit down in the snow one last time, fingers tracing idle shapes that melt before they form. The bell rests beside you, its surface catching the dawn. You tilt it gently, listening to that fragile chime that once meant innocence, then fear, then redemption. It's strange how one sound can contain every version of you. Behind you, the faint whisper of rails hums again. Not the Polar Express, not the final stop. Something new, something waiting. You look over your shoulder. The tracks glisten faintly across the snow, then vanish into mist halfway down the valley. You know what that means. They were never built to take you anywhere. They were built to teach you how to walk without needing them. A shadow passes overhead, soft, weightless, familiar. The child, or maybe the idea of them. They drift through the light like a reflection on rippled water, their voice echoing gently in your head. You did it. The train can rest now. You smile. Then what happens to me? A pause, then a giggle. Bright, innocent, free. You start over. And with that, they fade completely, leaving only the sound of that laughter turning into birdsong. You watch a flock of tiny black shapes rise over the pines, the first living things you've seen in what feels like centuries. You stand. The air tastes different now, crisp, alive, full of stories not yet told. The snow under your boots hums faintly, and when you look down you realize it's no longer just snow. It's paper. White, endless sheets of it, stretching in all directions, each one etched faintly with lines and letters. The words blur, rearrange, forming phrases you recognize. believe, arrive, forgive. Your footprints write new ones as you move forward, sentences only you can read. You whisper, half to yourself, half to the wind. So this is what stories become when they sleep. The wind answers with the faintest chime of the bell, not loud, just enough to remind you that sound still exists. You reach the curve of the light. Beyond it, only brightness. Not heaven, not hell, but the blank page waiting for the next chapter. You take one last look at the snow behind you, the names, the rails, the fading valley. It all looks peaceful now, as if even ghosts can dream. You take a deep breath. The air hums. The bell rings once in your hand. Then you step forward, into the light, into the next story, and the world folds quietly closed behind you. Light wraps around you like silk. It doesn't burn, doesn't blind. It simply accepts. For a long, breathless moment, you exist as nothing more than color and motion, a pattern made of sound and warmth. Then slowly, the world takes shape again. You're not on snow anymore. You're standing on a wooden platform dusted with frost. The boards creak softly under your boots, and a thin veil of mist hangs in the air, glowing with gold from unseen lanterns. There's a sign overhead. The paint has faded, but when you wipe away the frost, you can just make out the words, North Terminal, departures unwritten. You exhale. The breath drifts upward, curling through the lantern light. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn hums low and long, not menacing, not mechanical, but melancholy, like a goodbye whispered across lifetimes. You walk down the platform. Benches line the sides, each one carved with initials and fragments of phrases. Still waiting. Made it halfway. See you when the snow falls again. You run your fingers along the words. Each one vibrates faintly. Tiny echoes of the voices that carved them. The sound feels like warmth pressed into wood. At the end of the platform, a small booth glows softly. Behind the window, an old man sits in a conductor's uniform that doesn't fit quite right. He's reading a notebook filled with blank pages. He looks up as you approach, eyes twinkling like he knows you already. Well, he says, you made it further than most. You smile cautiously. Where does this one go? He chuckles, closing the notebook gently. That depends. Do you want to keep riding? You hesitate. The thought of more rails, more snow, more storms. It tightens something inside your chest. He nods knowingly. That's all right. The next train doesn't run on belief. It runs on peace. You glance down the tracks. They gleam faintly under the light, silver, delicate, unbroken. No smoke, no fire, no ghosts, just stillness. The old man pushes a single object through the booth window. Your bell. It looks different now. The metal worn soft, the tone muted, like it's been listening instead of ringing. He nods toward it. You'll need this, not for magic, for memory. You take it, holding it gently in your palms. The warmth returns, soft and steady. You smile. I thought I'd left it behind. He grins. Everyone does. That's how you know you're ready to remember. You look up, and suddenly, the whole platform feels alive. Not crowded, but full of presence. Whispers of laughter drift through the air, the faint jingle of distant bells blending with the hum of unseen engines. It's not the afterlife. It's the in-between, the place where stories decide whether to rest or begin again. You take one slow step toward the edge of the platform. No fear. No weight. Just warmth. You turn to the conductor. Will I see it again? He raises his hat, eyes soft. Every winter. Every time someone believes and forgives in the same breath. The whistle sounds, a quiet, hopeful note that drifts through the mist. You step forward into it. Bell clutched close to your heart, and the world opens once more. Not to flame, but to light that never stops remembering. The light folds around you like a curtain lifting at the end of a play. Slowly, softly, the world rebuilds itself, but different this time. Gentler, less certain. You're walking again, but not on tracks. Beneath your feet flows water, clear, slow-moving, reflecting the sky as though it's remembering how to be calm. Each step sends ripples outward, and you notice something strange. Within those ripples, Faint images shimmer. Faces. Moments. Tiny scenes you've lived and lost. You pause to watch one unfold. A child running down a snowy street, a paper ticket clutched in mittened hands, laughter, a whistle, and then silence, swallowed by white. It's your past, but softer now. Harmless. Memory washed clean. You kneel, touch the surface. The reflection changes again, this time showing the train. But it's smaller now. A toy gliding across the horizon, steam curling lazily into the air like a sigh instead of a scream. For the first time, you don't feel fear when you see it. You feel gratitude. The river bends, carving its way between trees so white they look carved from candle wax. Somewhere ahead, bells ring faintly, their sound echoing through the forest like wind threading a harp. You follow. The forest opens into a clearing, and there, a station. But not one made of stone and steel. This one's built of glass and frost. Its walls shimmer in soft colors, blues and golds, like reflections caught between breath and dream. A sign above the arch reads, "Departures remembered." Inside, rows of benches curve around a pool of light. No passengers, no conductors. Only hundreds of paper tickets floating slowly upward, as though gravity finally remembered to be kind. You watch them drift toward the ceiling, where they dissolve into faint, glowing snowflakes. Every one of those flakes is a name, a life, a memory let go. You can't help but smile. The air hums softly around you, filling your chest with warmth that feels earned. At the far end of the station, a small door stands half open. Through it, you glimpse an endless plain of stars. Not sky, water, a sea of starlight stretching into forever. And on the surface of that sea, rails shimmer faintly, silver lines gliding across the horizon, disappearing into the infinite. You realize the truth. The tracks never ended. They just learned to float. The Polar Express didn't vanish. It transformed, from machine to memory, from fire to reflection, from fear to forgiveness. And now it waits, not to take anyone away, but to guide them home when they forget where that is. You whisper into the stillness, half prayer, half farewell. Keep them safe. The rails glimmer in response, and the surface of the starlit sea ripples once. A soft nod from a ghost that's finally learned to rest. You step back from the door, heart steady, mind quiet. Somewhere behind you, the faint jingle of your bell answers, sweet and small, and endlessly alive. You turn toward the sound, smiling, ready to follow it wherever it leads next. You follow the bell's sound until it becomes rhythm, steady, gentle, pulsing with life. The air grows warmer, and the forest gives way to an open sky that looks painted by candlelight. Above you, ribbons of aurora twist through the darkness like rivers of thought, each shimmer reflecting tiny fragments of memory. You realize this place isn't heaven. It's recollection, every spark of kindness and regret, woven into a landscape that remembers you better than you remember yourself. Ahead, on the edge of the starlit sea, a train floats. But not the Polar Express you knew. This one glows pale silver, its carriage is made of light and quiet. The steam it exhales doesn't rise, it drifts downward, settling into the water like silk. A figure stands on the front step. Not tall, not fearsome, just steady. They wear a coat stitched from twilight, their hat rimmed with frost that glitters like new snow. The Starline conductor. They raise a hand and tip their cap, the gesture so familiar it almost hurts. "Been a long ride," they say, voice calm and weightless, like wind through a hollow bell. You manage a laugh. "Longer than I expected." They smile. It usually is. Every passenger thinks they're just going somewhere new. They never realize they're circling back to what they left behind. You walk closer. The light from the train brushes your face, and it feels like the first sunrise after years of storm. "Is this where it ends?" you ask. The conductor shakes their head. Nothing ends. Stories just reach the part where they can be told without pain. Behind them you glimpse the carriages, each one transparent, filled with floating lights, shaped like people mid-laughter, mid-song, mid-forgiveness. They aren't ghosts, they're memories set free. The conductor steps aside, gesturing toward the open door. "Come aboard if you'd like. We're not traveling by rails anymore, just by remembrance. You hesitate. What happens if I get on? They grin, a small, knowing curve. You won't ride forever. You'll rest where your name feels warm. You glance back at the valley behind you, the frozen pond, the fading forest, the faint line of snow where you carved the names. It all feels lighter now, like it can stand on its own. You turn toward the train. The bell in your hand rings softly on its own, a note of permission. You step forward. The air hums in recognition. The Starline conductor nods, and the platform beneath your feet begins to dissolve into light. Inside the train, the seats aren't velvet or brass. They're made of warmth, literal warmth, the feeling of being remembered kindly. You sit down. The world outside blurs, the stars streaking into soft trails. The conductor's voice echoes through the cabin. No ticket needed, just truth. The train moves, no sound, no speed, just motion that feels like peace discovering itself. Through the window, you see the Polar Express one last time, far below, tiny, golden, curving across the horizon like a scar that learned to shine. You raise your hand, and for a moment, it seems to wave back. The conductor smiles from the doorway. Every winter, someone remembers you. That's how the lights stay on. And as the train drifts into the stars, you hear the softest echo of your own voice, a whisper from some other lifetime, all aboard. The Starline train glides without sound, a silver ribbon threading through constellations that hum like tuning forks. You press your hand to the window. There's no glass, just a thin veil of light that bends to your touch. Beyond it, the stars drift slowly past, each one pulsing in rhythm with something you can feel in your chest. It takes you a while to understand. They're hearts, millions of them, beating across space, each one remembering a story. The universe is a railway, and every pulse is a station. You lean closer. One of the lights brightens. Inside it, you glimpse a snow-covered village, a mother lighting a candle, a boy hanging a brass bell on a branch. It's Earth, it's memory. The conductor steps beside you, hands folded behind their back, eyes soft with amusement. Beautiful, isn't it? They say. Every heartbeat we've ever carried still burns somewhere out there. We just keep them on schedule. You laugh quietly. Are you saying the universe runs on timetables? They shrug. On forgiveness. Timetables are just how we keep it neat. The carriages around you shift, walls fading, forming, rearranging like thoughts reorganizing themselves. One moment you're sitting among stars, the next you're inside a memory of yourself at 6 years old, watching snowfall through a frosted window. Your younger self hums softly, a tune you haven't thought about in decades. You join in, quiet, hesitant. The conductor listens, smiling. Most people forget their own lullabies, they murmur. You remembered just in time. The memory dissolves back into light, leaving only warmth in its place. The train glides through a field of aurora, colors rippling across the windows like breathing fabric. Each wave reveals another scene. Children laughing in candlelight, elderly hands wrapping gifts, someone whispering, "I forgive you," into the winter air. Every story glows for a moment, then folds gently into the next, like pages turning themselves. You glance at the conductor. Where are we going? They tilt their head. You tell me. You blink. I thought you were driving. They chuckle, voice like a bell underwater. Oh, I steer. But you set the direction. That's how the Starline works. Every traveler brings a destination already written in their light. You think for a moment. Home? But what does that mean anymore? The house by the forest? The family in the firelight? The version of you who believed in trains that flew through storms? None of those feel right. Then you realize it isn't a place you're looking for, it's a moment, the one before everything burned. The instant belief and truth held hands, and the world was simple again. You nod slowly. I want to go back to the night before the crash. The conductor smiles knowingly. You don't want to change it, you want to understand it. Yes, they tip their hat. Then hold on tight. We're crossing back into time. The whistle sounds, not from the front of the train, but from the stars themselves, every light flickering once, every heartbeat sinking to a single rhythm. And then everything turns white. White fades to silver. Silver fades to shadow. And suddenly you're standing on snow again. The world of 1885 still intact, still trembling with cold. The storm hasn't started yet. The air is sharp and perfect, smelling faintly of coal smoke and pine. The Polar Express waits at the platform below, steam curling lazily from its chimney like a dream too tired to leave. You're back. But not you. Not the ghost. Not the smoke. Not the believer who burned for answers. This is you as witness. An echo given one last look. The conductor stands beside you on the hill, hands tucked neatly behind his back. His eyes aren't embers now. They're steady, almost kind. You said you wanted to understand, he says quietly. You nod. He gestures toward the station. Then watch. Below, the passengers gather, children wrapped in scarves, parents whispering farewells, the air alive with the kind of joy that's too big for one night to hold. The brass bell above the depot rings, and the sound cuts clean through the frost. You can see yourself, the version of you who still believed the train was magic. Wide-eyed, breath visible, ticket clutched so tightly it trembles. You want to shout a warning, to tell them what's coming, but the conductor shakes his head. Don't. They need to ride. Your throat tightens. They're going to die. He turns, eyes reflecting the train's soft glow. No one dies in a story. They just change chapters. The whistle blows, long, low. The sound vibrates through the air like a held breath. Steam swells, swallowing the station in a haze of gold and white. The engineer waves. Children cheer. Parents cry quietly behind their smiles. It's perfect, so perfect it hurts. You realize this moment, this heartbeat of pure, naive belief, was what kept the train alive long after the crash. Every retelling, every bedtime story, every candle lit on Christmas Eve, all of it pulled from this single instant. The storm didn't kill the magic. The magic froze itself here to survive. You whisper, it was never about the crash. The conductor smiles faintly. It never is. Tragedy's just the part people remember loudest. But the truth lives in the quiet before. Snow begins to fall again, gentle, forgiving. The platform glows brighter and the Polar Express starts to roll forward, its wheels clinking softly against the rails. You watch it pull away, that impossible machine of wonder and doom, beautiful because it doesn't know what's coming. The conductor tips his hat toward it. They'll ride through the storm, they'll wake what shouldn't be woken, and you'll spend lifetimes mending the fire they lit. But don't pity them. You glance at him. Why not? He looks at the horizon where the train vanishes into snow. Because they taught the world how to believe after the lights go out. The last car disappears into the blizzard. The wind rises. The hill beneath your feet starts to dissolve back into starlight. The conductor turns to you, smiling with something like relief. Now you know why it had to burn. You close your eyes. And when you open them again, you're standing on the Starline train once more, your bell warm in your hand, and peace sitting quietly where fear used to live. You're back aboard the Starline. The return feels like waking from a memory that still has teeth. The light outside the windows shifts from silver to pale gold. Morning somewhere, in some world, but not one you've walked before. The conductor sits across from you now. No cap, no timetable. Just a face you can finally see. Weathered, calm, almost human. Every traveler who learns the story, they say, changes what comes next. You rest the bell on your knee, listening to its faint hum that syncs with the rhythm of the train. So I didn't fix it, you murmur. I just changed it? They nod. The express still runs, it always will. But now it knows it doesn't need to burn to be warm. You smile softly. That sounds like forgiveness. The conductor chuckles. It is, but we call it maintenance. The car shifts shape again. Walls ripple like curtains, and the ceiling opens into a field of light. You see the constellations forming rails overhead, curving tracks of silver stretching between planets, weaving memory into motion. Every point of light beats like a tiny heart. Every pulse tells a story being retold somewhere below. You can feel it. A million versions of Christmas playing out, each one a little softer because of what you changed. One world's children dream of snow that never hurts. Another builds toys that hum instead of howl. Somewhere a small town tells the tale of the Polar Express as a ghost story that ends in peace instead of fire. It's spreading. You glance toward the front of the carriage. The control panel is glowing faintly, but there are no levers, no switches, just a single brass compass. Its needle spins lazily, pointing in slow circles like it's listening. The conductor notices your gaze. Every traveler leaves a direction behind, they explain. Yours hasn't settled yet. You frown. What does that mean? It means your story isn't finished. The words settle heavy but calm. You don't feel dread, just inevitability. I thought I'd already found peace. You did, they say. But peace isn't an ending. It's a permission slip. The train glides through a patch of starlight so bright it hurts to look at. When your eyes adjust, you see shapes forming in the glow. Figures, faint, familiar. The passengers, the child. Even the old version of yourself, the one still clinging to the magic, still afraid to lose it. They're walking along invisible rails in the air, each carrying a small lantern. The light from those lanterns drips down like golden rain, landing on distant worlds below. They're not gone, you whisper. The conductor shakes their head. Stories never vanish, they just change trains. You lean your head back against the seat, watching the glow dance across the ceiling. For the first time, you feel what the word after really means. Not nothingness, but motion without fear. The conductor rises, tipping their hat once more. Next stop, the archive. You blink. What's that? They grin. Where all the endings go to learn how to start again. Outside, the light thickens, the rails bending into a spiral of gold that leads downward into eternity. The whistle blows, low, soft, infinite, and the star line begins its descent. The descent feels weightless, like falling but without fear. The star line slips through folds of light, each one whispering fragments of voices you almost recognize. You lean toward the window. Outside, the stars stretch into threads of memory, names, faces, years, songs, all spiraling toward a single point below. The conductor stands by the door, hands clasped neatly behind their back. Welcome, they say, to the place where stories sleep until someone needs them again. The train slows, its hum deepening into a low, steady purr. Through the shimmer ahead you see a station, vast, endless, built from glass and shadow. Its walls pulse faintly, alive with script that writes and erases itself in golden ink. The letters climb the ceiling, curl around pillars, and spill into the air like smoke. Every word glows for a moment, then melts into light. The train stops without a sound. Doors open on their own. You step out. The air inside the archive smells of dust and lightning. Rows upon rows of books stretch into infinity, spines flickering, rearranging, rewriting themselves in real time. Some float, some rest on marble tables, others hang suspended in beams of light. Each one hums softly, each one breathes. You pick up the nearest volume. The cover reads simply, Polar Express, Draft 1885. You open it. Inside, ink spills like water across the page, forming sentences that dissolve before you can finish reading them. They rewrite themselves constantly, as if the story is alive, still deciding what it wants to be. The conductor joins you, their voice echoing softly through the endless hall. Every story that ever ended too soon, they say, comes here to heal. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes a century. You run your hand along the pages. The ink ripples beneath your touch, forming new words. You can rest now. You glance at the conductor. I didn't write that. They nod. Didn't you? You walk deeper into the archive. The corridors twist like rail lines, branching in every direction. Every turn hums with echoes of something half-remembered. A lullaby, a train whistle, a whisper of forgiveness. On a pedestal at the center of the room, a single bell rests beneath glass. It's yours, but older, tarnished, quiet. You approach, and the moment your hand hovers over it, the glass melts away. The bell rings once, soft, patient, infinite. All around you, the books stop moving. The ink freezes mid-sentence. For the first time in centuries, the archive listens. The conductor speaks, their voice low, reverent. Every traveler who finishes their story leaves one thing behind: a sound, something small, something human. You hold the bell gently, its warmth pulsing faintly against your palm. It feels heavier now, but not burdened, grounded. You whisper, "Then this is my ending." They smile. "No, this is where you leave proof that you lived." You place the bell back on the pedestal. Its tone lingers, blending with the heartbeat hum of the archive. The books begin to move again, softly, calmly, rewriting themselves with new words. Outside the walls you hear it, a single distant whistle. Not farewell, not return, just continuity. The conductor tips their hat. "Shall we file this one under peace?" You nod. And together you watch the ink settle into its final line. He believed again, and the world was warmer for it. The archive hums with quiet satisfaction. You can feel it breathing again, each page, each word, each flicker of story alive and awake. The bell's resonance still ripples softly through the air, ringing somewhere deep inside you, even though your hands are empty now. You turn toward the conductor, but they're already gone. In their place stands someone new, not tall, not radiant, just present. A woman in a coat of white linen, her hair threaded with tiny strands of light that sway like candle flames. She's barefoot, silent, her footsteps leaving soft imprints of gold across the floor. "You must be the one who returned the fire," she says. Her voice sounds like two voices layered together, one ancient, one newly born. You nod slowly. "I didn't mean to." Her smile is small and kind. No one ever does. Restoration is the child of accident and apology. She moves past you, her fingers brushing the shelves as she walks. Every book she touches glows brighter, its letters steadying into permanence. You realize who she is. "The librarian." She bows her head slightly. "Keeper of the lighted lines, curator of what refuses to end." You follow her deeper into the hall. The further you go, the softer the glow becomes, like descending into the heart of a lantern. The walls narrow and suddenly you emerge into a circular room. In the center, a massive table carved from glass spins slowly, covered in open books that turn their own pages. Above it, a chandelier of frozen bells hangs motionless, each one holding a fragment of light within. The librarian gestures to them. These are echoes, moments strong enough to stay audible after time stops speaking. She plucks one bell from the chandelier and hands it to you. Inside its glass, a scene flickers, the moment before the Polar Express crashed, frozen in perpetual almost. "You carried this longer than you know," she says. "Do you want to keep it?" You stare at the bell, the tiny image of yourself on that train's roof, the snow, the scream, the impossible fire still waiting to happen. You shake your head. "No, I think I want it to rest." The librarian smiles. "Then name it." You take a breath, and with all the quiet certainty you've earned, you whisper, "Mercy." The bell's light softens. Its image fades, and as it dissolves completely, the chandelier hums, every other bell ringing faintly in response, like a choir of stories thanking you. The librarian tilts her head. "Well done." You exhale, feeling something heavy lift. Not gone, just lighter. What happens now? She moves closer, her eyes reflecting the glow of the books, like galaxies seen through frost. "Now you learn to listen to what hasn't been written yet." She points to a small archway beyond the chamber. Through it, faint light pulses in slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. "That leads to the scriptorium," she says. "It's where the new ones begin." You glance back toward the shelves, thousands of stories still turning themselves alive. "Do I belong there?" Her smile widens, a little proud, a little sad. "You always did. You just had to find your way through the fire first." She steps aside, gesturing toward the light. "Go on, the next chapter's waiting." You walk through the archway the librarian pointed to, and the hum of the archive softens behind you. The corridor curves downward, its walls made of pale glass that glows with slow pulses of light, like the veins of a living creature dreaming beneath ice. At the end, a door waits. It's not ornate, not grand, just wood, its surface etched with words that appear and fade as you breathe. Write gently, for what you imagine becomes. You touch the handle, warm, alive. The door opens into brightness. The scriptorium is enormous, a cathedral of paper and ink and silence that hums like a sleeping storm. Columns of light rise from the floor to the ceiling, each one filled with swirling fragments of scenes, half-formed memories, unfinished worlds, stories not yet told. Desks float weightless through the air. Pens move by themselves, drawing letters that glow, then fold into shape. A snowflake here, a candle flame there, a face halfway between sorrow and grace. You step inside, and the moment your foot touches the marble floor, ink ripples across it like water. Wherever you walk, sentences bloom, not written by you, but from you. Snow remembers everything it touches. Forgiveness smells like steam. Even ghosts deserve a gentle bedtime. You smile despite yourself. It's absurd, beautiful. The librarian follows, her steps so quiet you almost don't hear them. "This is where all journeys return," she murmurs. The scriptorium writes from what travelers leave behind. Memories, dreams, regrets. They all become language again. You approach one of the floating desks. A sheet of pale parchment hovers above it, blank except for a single line written in tiny, elegant script. Author, passenger number 9. You blink. That's me. The librarian nods. Every soul that survived belief gets a quill. She gestures, and from the air a pen of glass and gold forms in your hand. Its nib hums faintly, alive with your pulse. "Write one line," she says. "Not to end the story, to remind the world why it mattered." You look down at the page. The whiteness stares back like expectation. You take a deep breath, and the ink begins to flow. Thick, shimmering, the color of melted snow beneath candlelight. You write slowly. "Even when the fire froze, we kept each other warm." The words settle, sink, then burst upward in a faint glow that fills the entire chamber. The bells in the archive ring once, soft and distant. The librarian closes her eyes, whispering something you almost hear. Another story saved. You lay the quill down. It vanishes into light, its purpose complete. "Is that it?" you ask quietly. The librarian shakes her head. "For this one, yes. But now new snow will fall somewhere, and someone will dream a train again. Only this time it won't crash. It will arrive." You glance up at the swirling columns. One of them flickers, showing a small boy standing in a window, watching snow and whispering to the night. "I still believe." Your throat tightens. "That's him." The librarian nods. "And that's you. Rewritten." You watch the column fade, your reflection glowing faintly in its light. Somewhere behind you, the bell in the archive rings one last time, its sound echoing through the marble hall like a blessing. The librarian's voice follows softly. "Go now. The story knows how to find its own sequel." You turn toward the light at the far end of the chamber, heart steady, hands empty, soul warm. The snow begins to fall again, soft, endless, new. The snow falls differently here. Not cold, not heavy, but curious. Each flake hangs in the air for a heartbeat before settling, as though deciding what kind of memory it wants to be. You walk through the scriptorium's final archway, and the light beyond stretches into a long, narrow corridor. At its end waits a small table, and on it a single envelope sealed with wax. You pick it up carefully. Your name is written across the front in a hand that feels both foreign and familiar. Passenger number 9. Final journey. The wax bears the faint imprint of a bell. You break the seal. Inside, one sheet of paper. No letter, just a ticket. Not brass this time. Paper, soft and warm to the touch, edges glowing faintly with blue light. The destination line reads, "Home, revised." You look up. The librarian is gone. The scriptorium hums softly behind you, its columns of light pulsing slower now, content. Before you, another door waits. Tall, wooden, etched with frost that moves like living ink. Through its cracks you can see movement. Trees swaying, a faint orange glow, a night alive with snow and stars. The handle is cold, but when you touch it, the warmth from the ticket seeps into your palm. You open it. The world outside smells like pine, wood smoke, and something sweet, like sugar burned just enough to taste like memory. You step through. You're standing in the same forest from the beginning, but everything feels changed. The trees lean closer. The air hums gently, alive with the pulse of something kind. Down the slope, through the drifting snow, you see it. The Polar Express. But it's not the monster it once was. No fire, no chains, no furnace breathing hunger into the night. It sits quietly on the tracks, steam rising in soft plumes. The metal gleams like polished moonlight. Every window glows with a soft, golden warmth. And beside the engine, the conductor stands waiting. Same hat, same posture, different eyes, clear, calm, human. He tips his hat as you approach. I see you found your way back. You hold up the ticket. Apparently, I wasn't done traveling. He grins. Funny thing about home. Sometimes you have to leave it a few dozen lifetimes to find the front door again. You glance at the train. It hums, not with machinery but with peace. It's beautiful, you whisper. He nods. Because this time, it knows where it's going. He gestures toward the open carriage. Care for one last ride? You hesitate, then smile. Only if it's round trip. The conductor laughs softly. Every journey worth taking is. You step onto the platform, the snow crunching beneath your boots. The door closes behind you with a gentle click. Inside, the carriage glows golden and quiet. Velvet seats, clean windows, no shadows hiding in the corners. You sit down. The ticket dissolves in your hand, turning into a small shimmer of light that sinks into the air. Outside, the engine exhales a soft breath of steam. The world beyond the glass brightens. No fire, no storm, just snow drifting like forgiveness. The whistle sounds once, low and content. The Polar Express begins to move again. The train glides forward, not rushing, not roaring, just breathing. The tracks sing beneath it, a melody so soft it could be mistaken for silence. You rest your head against the window. Outside, snowflakes drift upward instead of down, spiraling in gentle defiance of gravity. The Polar Express hums with a rhythm you recognize now, the heartbeat of something reborn. Every vibration through the floor feels like a memory putting itself back together. The conductor moves down the aisle, checking lamps, adjusting curtains, more caretaker than master now. He stops beside your seat. Comfortable? You nod. Feels different this time. He grins. Because it is. You're not a passenger anymore. You're part of the route. You frown slightly, unsure if you understand. He chuckles. When a story learns mercy, its author doesn't disappear. They become the path others follow to forgiveness. The words settle deep inside you. You look out the window again. The forest rolls by in shimmering layers of white and blue, each tree reflecting faint golden light from the carriages. It feels alive, as if the whole world is exhaling for the first time in a century. You see a flicker ahead. Through the snow, faint shapes appear. Children running, laughing, holding lanterns that glow the same shade as your bell. They wave as the train passes, their laughter blending with the hum of the rails. One of them, a small boy with mittens too big for his hands, points at you through the window. You wave back instinctively. He grins, holding up a small, familiar object, a brass bell. He shakes it once. You can't hear the sound, but you feel it, a vibration in your chest, like the echo of joy rediscovered. The conductor follows your gaze. New believers, he says softly. They always find their way to the tracks. They hear the story and make it theirs. You smile. So it keeps going. He nods. As long as someone needs to learn warmth without fire, the train will ride again. You sit back, eyes half closed. The bell's echo lingers in the carriage, filling it with that delicate ache you once mistook for sadness. But it isn't sadness. It's continuity. You realize the truth. You're not riding toward an ending. You're riding through a promise that every story that ever froze in the dark will find light again someday. The train begins to slow. The whistle blows once, short, clear, certain. Through the window you see it, a small town blanketed in snow, lanterns glowing in windows, a station sign gleaming softly beneath icicles. It reads, Home Revised. The conductor tips his hat. End of the line. For now. You rise, hand brushing the seat one last time. The air smells of cocoa and pine. At the door he pauses. You did well, he says. Most passengers never make it to this stop. You grin. I had good conductors. He laughs, low and genuine. Keep the tracks warm for the next one. You step onto the platform. Snow drifts lazily around you. The world feels soft, like a breath held for too long, finally released. Behind you, the Polar Express rests quietly, steam curling into the morning air. You don't need to look back to know it's smiling. You take one step forward, then another. The bell in your pocket jingles once, bright and sure. And in that moment, you realize what you've always known. No matter how far the train travels, every stop is home when you arrive with warmth intact. The platform beneath your boots creaks softly, each board humming with a note of welcome. It feels lived in, warm, human. Lanterns sway gently from wrought iron posts, their light tinted amber by the frost that kisses the glass. Ahead lies the town, small, simple, familiar. The same one you once dreamed of leaving, now waiting like a promise rewritten in fresh handwriting. You walk down the steps, and the air greets you with the faint smell of pine, cinnamon, and the metallic sweetness of snow that hasn't decided whether to fall or stay. The station sign gleams again in the morning light. Home, revised. The paint looks new, but the letters carry that charming crookedness that only comes from hands that tried their best in the cold. As you step into the street, you realize something strange. Everyone you meet seems familiar. Not from memory exactly, but from echo. The baker wiping her hands on a flour-stained apron. You swear you saw her once through the steam of the old train window. The child tugging at his father's sleeve, asking if the bell still rings. You've heard that voice in dreams. They smile at you as though you never left. And maybe, in some way, you never did. You pass a toy shop window. Inside, a wooden train circles endlessly through a paper forest, its tiny whistle letting out the faintest, most content sigh. You lean closer. Carved into the toy engine's side are the words, "Made from salvaged rail, 1885. You laugh under your breath. Even the wreckage learned how to be gentle. Further down the street, a group of carolers gathers in the square. Their voices rise soft and steady, filling the cold air with harmonies that feel older than any language. They aren't singing about joy or gifts. Their lyrics tell of light found in snow, of journeys taken only to learn stillness. You stop beside the fountain at the center of town. The water has frozen mid-motion, a crystalline sculpture of movement arrested in beauty. Someone has placed a brass bell on its rim just like yours and tied a note around it with red ribbon. You untie the ribbon and read, "For those who once traveled too far to find warmth." You're home now. The words blur as your eyes sting. You set your own bell beside it. They jingle together, a harmony so delicate it might break if the world stopped believing. A snowflake lands on your glove. It glows faintly, then fades. Each one that falls after carries a spark of light inside it, small, brief kind. You tilt your head back and let them touch your face. For the first time, snow doesn't sting. Behind you, the Polar Express lets out one quiet hiss of steam, not as farewell, but as gratitude. You turn to see it resting at the edge of town, half in the light, half in the mist, a guardian more than a ghost. And for a moment, you swear you hear the faint laughter of the passengers echoing through the air like wind through bells. You whisper to the morning softly so only the snow can hear, "Tell them I made it back." And the wind answers with 1,000 tiny chimes. Yes, yes, yes. By dusk, the sky is an ocean of violet glass. Every chimney exhales ribbons of smoke that twist into the stars, as if the town itself is finally learning to dream again. You sit on the steps of the toy shop, hands cupped around a mug of cocoa someone insisted you take. The first sip tastes like kindness. Sweet, real, a little imperfect. You let the warmth anchor you. The streets glow golden from the lamps. Snow drifts lazily past them, each flake catching the light before melting on the cobblestones. Children chase one another between doorways, their laughter rising like sparks. They ring little handbells, and every note seems to ripple through the air, blending with the hum of the train that still rests quietly at the edge of town. The Polar Express doesn't look like a legend now. It looks ordinary, which is what makes it beautiful. The conductor walks through the square, his hat tilted low, carrying a small box tucked beneath his arm. When he reaches you, He sits down beside you like an old friend. "Quiet night," he says. You nod. "The best kind." He opens the box. Inside lies a single lantern, its glass tinted blue. It flickers faintly, but never quite goes out. "This belongs here now," he murmurs, placing it gently on the fountain's edge beside the bells. Every station needs its own light. You watch the flame dance behind the glass. "Won't it burn out?" He smiles. "That's the thing about true warmth. It doesn't burn anymore, it remembers." A hush settles over the square. The carolers finish their last song, and the townsfolk begin to drift homeward, their boots crunching softly through the snow. One by one, windows fill with light. One by one, laughter replaces the wind. You glance at the conductor. His eyes glint with the same golden calm you saw on the star line. "You're not leaving, are you?" He shakes his head. "Not tonight. The tracks are resting." He gestures toward the train. It hums faintly in the distance, steam coiling upward like sighs. "No one boards it in peace," he adds quietly. "Not until it's needed again." You smile. "And when it is?" His grin is soft. "It'll find its way back. It always does." A little girl runs past, the same one you saw earlier with the brass bell. She stops at the fountain, places her tiny hands on the lantern's base, and whispers something you can't quite hear. Then she turns, waves at you, and runs home laughing. You ask, "Did she just—" The conductor nods. "She thanked you. Not in words, in warmth." You chuckle quietly, a sound that feels like exhaling a century. "Guess that means my job's done." He leans back, eyes on the horizon. "No, friend, it means it's working." The night deepens. Snow piles softly on rooftops. The Polar Express glows faintly in the distance, each window a heartbeat of golden light. For the first time since you ever heard its whistle, you understand that the train was never meant to end anywhere. It just stops long enough for people to remember why they built it in the first place. You sip your cocoa, watching the lantern's glow reflect in the frozen fountain, and whisper to the stars above, "Not every Christmas needs a miracle. Sometimes it just needs mercy." The wind carries your words across the town, and every bell answers softly one after another, until the night hums with warmth. The town sleeps, and for once, so does the storm. Morning doesn't arrive like light breaking open. It arrives like breath returning. Soft, slow, deliberate. The storm's old footprints are gone. The rooftops shimmer, and the air smells faintly of thawing pine and melted tin. You wake to the sound of bells, not loud or insistent, a murmur of hundreds ringing somewhere between here and heaven. The whole town seems to vibrate with it. From your spot on the toy shop steps, you watch as the sky changes color, from silver to honey, to the blue of fresh ink. Every flake of frost glows gold at its edges, like the snow itself remembers warmth. You stretch, shake the cold from your coat, and stand. The conductor's lantern still burns beside the fountain. The brass bells beside it jingle faintly, their tones intertwining like voices harmonizing after a long silence. It feels like the world is humming to itself, a song you've heard before, but never fully listened to. The streets fill slowly. People emerge from doorways carrying bread, carving paths through the powder with shovels and laughter. The child with the mittens is there again, pushing a small wooden sled down the hill, the brass bell tied to its rope, chiming with every bump. Our group of children follow, throwing handfuls of snow that shimmer brighter than they should. Every flake that hits the ground turns into a tiny spark of light before fading. Magic, but quieter this time. Softer, earned. You turn toward the edge of town. The Polar Express is still there, half shrouded in morning mist. Its windows glow faintly, and faint curls of steam rise from its chimney. It looks content, like an old storyteller who finally finished the chapter they'd been afraid to write. You walk toward it. The conductor is already waiting at the base of the steps. He's drinking something from a tin cup, the scent drifting toward you. Coffee, real, bitter-sweet. He smiles as you approach. "Sleep well?" You nod. "I think I dreamed of bells." "Then you're hearing right," he says. "The world's remembering itself." He gestures toward the town. "Listen." You close your eyes. At first, you hear only the ordinary. Boots crunching on snow, doors opening, a dog barking somewhere distant. But underneath that, A rhythm, a pulse, a faint chime that hums through every sound like a heartbeat behind a song. It's the same vibration that filled the star line, the same resonance you felt when the heart of the train burned with memory. Only now, it's everywhere. In the walls, in the air, in the people. Is that the train, you ask? The conductor shakes his head. That's you. You frown. Me? He chuckles softly. You, them, the town, the rails. All the same line, finally connected. Warmth doesn't belong to a machine anymore. It belongs to everyone who survived the story. You laugh quietly, the sound frosting into the air. So this is what happens after belief. The conductor nods, eyes glinting. This is what happens when belief learns to listen. He finishes his coffee and sets the cup down on the snow. You'll want to stay a while, he says. There's one more thing coming. What thing? He smiles. The thaw. And as he says it, the sound of melting begins, slow, rhythmic, tender. Icicles dripping from eaves, water singing down gutters, snow loosening its grip on the roofs of every house in town. The bells ring again, a little higher this time, as though the world is laughing quietly under its breath. You watch the horizon. The first green of spring glints through the frost. The first warmth touches your hands. The world isn't ending anymore. It's beginning. And for once, you get to see it happen. By midday, the snow starts to surrender, not in defeat, in relief. It melts slowly, pooling into silver ribbons that run along the cobblestones. The sound of dripping fills the air, steady and rhythmic, like a clock relearning how to keep time. The bells on the fountain ring whenever the water touches them, each drop becoming a note in a song that no one wrote, but everyone knows. You walk through the square, boots leaving wet prints that steam faintly in the sun. The air smells alive, earth, pine, and the faint sweetness of wood smoke mixing into something wholly human. The conductor stands by the fountain, hands behind his back, watching the lantern flame dance behind the thinning glass. Its light is different now, brighter, faster, as though it can't decide whether to be fire or sky. He glances at you. It's started. You nod. The thaw. He smiles. The remembering. Children run past shouting, laughing, dragging branches through the puddles to make rivers of their own. Their boots splash water that glitters like gold dust in the sunlight. The baker props open her door. Steam spills into the street, carrying the smell of cinnamon and butter. The scent drifts all the way to the edge of town, and for a moment, even the train exhales like it's hungry. The conductor chuckles quietly. Smells like the world trying to earn back its sweetness. You grin. It's working. He looks at the fountain, then at the bells lined along its edge. They'll ring until nightfall, he says. When they stop, it means the snow's forgiven the fire. You tilt your head. Do snow and fire really forgive each other? He shrugs. Only when someone teaches them how. The two of you watch as sunlight bends off the melting ice, turning the town square into a mosaic of brightness. The reflection of the train shimmers across the puddles, a faint ghost of what once burned, now shining clean. You kneel beside the water, run your fingers through it. It's cold, real cold, but it doesn't bite. It flows around your hand like a heartbeat. You look up at the conductor. What happens after the thaw? He takes a long breath. People forget for a while. That's all right. They're supposed to. He steps forward, looking toward the horizon. Then winter comes back. Someone lights a fire too bright. Someone believes too hard again. And the story wakes up. It's not a curse, it's a rhythm. You stare at the horizon, where the last of the snow meets the dark soil of spring. I guess everything alive has to melt before it can grow. The conductor smiles, eyes soft. Exactly, even belief. A soft wind sweeps through the square, carrying droplets that glitter as they fall. The bells ring faster now, a bright, shimmering chorus. And beneath their song you hear something else, the train. It hums faintly, content, its glow reflecting off the puddles like sunlight trapped in glass. The conductor straightens his coat. Well, he says, I think it's time for me to check the line. You nod, half smiling. Where to? He grins. Wherever the next snow forgets how to stay cold. He tips his hat once more, turns toward the train, and walks into the light of the lantern until he's gone. You stand alone in the square, watching the last of the snow slide away into memory. The world hums softly, bells fading into birdsong, steam fading into spring. You breathe, and for the first time in forever, you believe in warmth that doesn't need to be earned. Spring doesn't burst into being, it unfolds. Like paper warming in sunlight, like ink blooming in water. The snow withdraws with grace, revealing soil the color of coffee and forgotten songs. Everywhere you look, the town hums with quiet purpose. Children dig small trenches near the fountain, planting seeds wrapped in paper prayers. Someone strings bells along the branches of a bare tree, so that each gust of wind sounds like laughter returning home. You wander toward the edge of town, following the rail line that gleams faintly beneath the melting frost. The tracks don't vanish into mist anymore. They end in a meadow. Where the Polar Express once roared, wildflowers bloom in two perfect parallel lines. Bluebells, lilies, tiny white blossoms that smell faintly of smoke and sugar. You kneel between them, brush your hand across the petals, and realize the metal beneath the soil still hums, not with heat, but with memory. From behind you comes a soft voice. You found the garden. You turn. The librarian stands there, coat pale as linen in sunlight, hands folded neatly before her. I didn't plant it, you say. She smiles. No one did. When the world forgives itself, the ground remembers how to bloom. She walks closer, crouching beside the flowers. Each one tilts slightly toward her, like they're listening. You're not just a passenger anymore, she says. You're a keeper. Every journey leaves one behind to remind the rails why they were built. You glance toward the faint outline of the town. Does that mean I stay here? For a while. Her tone is gentle, certain. Until you forget how to fear silence. You both sit in the soft grass, the hum of the buried rails threading through the soil like a lullaby. Do the trains ever run again? You ask. She looks at you, eyes full of dawn light. They always run, just not where they used to. Now they travel through stories, through hearts. Every time someone forgives, a train finds new tracks. You laugh quietly, the sound half joy, half disbelief. So every apology is a whistle in disguise? She nods. Exactly that. For a while neither of you speak. The meadow breathes around you, the sound of bees replacing the hiss of steam. It's beautiful in a way you never thought stillness could be. You realize the Polar Express didn't vanish. It simply stopped running between worlds. Now it runs through them, and somehow that feels right. The librarian stands, dusts the dirt from her hands. When the bells fall silent tonight, the season will reset, she says softly. The world will forget the details, but the warmth will stay. You rise too, watching the horizon bleed orange into pale gold. So what happens to me when it resets? She turns to you, smiling faintly. You'll be wherever someone remembers the story. Maybe a dream, maybe a candle's flicker, maybe just the feeling of snow that doesn't hurt anymore. She starts walking toward the town, her outline already softening in the glow. You call after her, "Will we ever meet again?" Her voice floats back, a whisper stitched with kindness. Every Christmas, every thaw, every time warmth wins. You stand in the garden, alone but not lonely, listening to the earth hum with the faint rhythm of wheels turning somewhere far beyond sight. The rails gleam one last time in the dying light. They're not waiting to be traveled anymore. They're resting, like a heart between beats. You smile, because you finally understand. The journey never ended. It just changed passengers. Night returns like a soft curtain. The sky above the meadow glows faintly purple, the air sweet with thaw and memory. The bells in town ring one last time, not in unison, but like conversation, each one chiming its own word. Here, safe, warm. You sit on the grass between the flowered rails. The hum beneath the soil is slower now, less like machinery, more like a heartbeat settling into rest. Every petal around you glows faintly in rhythm with that pulse, tiny lights blinking as if the garden itself is falling asleep. You close your eyes. For the first time, in longer than you can measure, you feel no pull, no promise, no duty, just quiet. The air shifts. A breeze drifts through the meadow, cool, gentle, scented with pine and soot. the kind of wind that only comes before a train passes. You open your eyes. A shimmer runs down the rails. Far in the distance, a glow begins to rise. Not bright, not sharp, just steady and gold. You stand slowly, heart pounding once, twice. It can't be. Not again. But it is. The Polar Express, not burning, not roaring. Drifting through the dark like a star remembering its orbit. Its whistle is soft this time, a sigh, not a cry. The meadow bends as it approaches, flowers swaying instead of scattering. Its wheels don't grind, they hum. Each window flickers with warm silhouettes. Passengers laughing, talking, sleeping peacefully. The train slows as it nears you, steam curling like fog around its sides. The door opens, and there he is, the conductor. Hat tipped low, smile carved in kindness. "Didn't think you'd stop here again," you say, voice trembling between awe and affection. He shrugs. The line felt lonely. He steps down onto the grass, boots sinking softly into the dew. "You kept the tracks warm." You grin. "I tried." He studies the meadow, nodding at the rows of blooming flowers. "You did better than try." You gesture toward the train. "It looks different." He chuckles. "It's lighter now, runs on stories instead of sorrow." You glance up at the windows, at the passengers whose faces flicker like candlelight. Where are they going? He looks past you, toward the horizon painted in shades of silver and dawn. "Forward," he says simply. "Where else?" You take a slow step closer. The heat of the engine kisses your skin, not burning, just warm enough to remind you what living feels like. He holds out his hand. No ticket this time, just gratitude. You hesitate, then shake it. His grip is firm, real. It hums with the same pulse as the earth. "Goodbye, conductor," he smiles. "Not goodbye. We're all on the same schedule eventually." He climbs the steps, tips his hat one last time, and disappears into the golden light inside. The door closes. The train exhales. It begins to move slowly, gracefully, cutting through the night like a lullaby. You watch until the glow fades over the hill. The hum beneath your feet quiets, then settles into stillness. The meadow sighs, the rails cool, and for the first time, there is no echo, only peace. Above you, the sky brightens with the first stars of spring. One of them flickers brighter than the rest, then steadies. A tiny golden light, a promise kept. You whisper into the quiet. Safe travels. A breeze answers, carrying the faintest, happiest whistle through the night. When you wake, the world smells new, the kind of new that isn't loud about it, just gentle, like the earth quietly deciding to begin again. The meadow glows under a pale blue dawn. The rails are gone now, buried beneath wildflowers that hum softly with the rhythm of the sleeping train. The soil is still warm under your palms. You press your hand to it, feeling the faint, steady heartbeat of something vast and kind. The air carries the sound of bells, not ringing, breathing, long, slow, content breaths that make the horizon shimmer. You rise and follow them back toward town. The streets are different. Green sprouts push through the cobblestones. Window boxes spill over with color. Someone's hung garlands between lampposts. Not for a festival, just because beauty needs somewhere to stand. You pass the toy shop again. Its window display has changed. No train this time. Instead, a glass case filled with tiny brass bells, each one tied with a red thread. A small sign reads, "For those who believe in warmth that stays." Inside, the shopkeeper, the same old man who once carved the wooden trains, nods as he polishes the glass. He looks at you like he already knows your story. Maybe he does. Maybe everyone here does. At the fountain, the lantern still burns, its blue flame bright against the daylight. Children chase each other around it, laughing, their boots splashing in the puddles left by the thaw. Each time they pass the flame, it flickers higher, as if fed by joy. You sit on the fountain's edge, watching. The brass bells you left behind are still there, though they've dulled with weather. That feels right. Nothing gold should stay untouched. The little girl with the mittens runs up, holding something behind her back. When she opens her hands, a small flower rests in her palm, pale white with a stem that glows faintly in the sun. "It grew from the track," she says proudly. "Mama says it's called forgiveness." You can't help but smile. That's a good name for it. She tilts her head. Are you going to leave again? You look at the horizon. The air there ripples faintly, the shimmer of distant rails turning into light. Maybe someday, you say softly. But not yet. She nods like she understands completely. Then she sets the flower in the fountain's basin, and the water ripples outward, carrying it toward the lantern's blue flame. The petals catch the light, and for a moment, the entire square glows like sunrise bottled in glass. The bells start ringing again, not from hands, from everywhere. The sound rises with the morning wind, spilling over rooftops, curling into the sky until it becomes part of the light itself. The townsfolk pause their work, look up and smile. They don't ask why. They just listen. Because somewhere far above, beyond sound, beyond story, the Polar Express has started its route again. Not through snow, but through hearts that remember what warmth sounds like. You tilt your head, close your eyes, and whisper a single word to the wind. Go. And the world answers with music. The music lingers long after the bells fade. It fills the air like sunlight that forgot to stop shining, stretching from chimney to treetop, curling into every empty space that grief once owned. You walk toward the hill beyond the town, where the meadow meets the sky. The snow there has melted completely, leaving only grass and the faint scent of cold metal. You kneel, brushing your hand over the soil. The hum beneath it is steady, a slow, familiar vibration, the heartbeat of rails that no longer need to be seen to exist. The wind picks up, and when you look up, you see it. A faint shimmer in the clouds. Not a shape exactly, more like a memory pretending to be sky. It shifts once, and there he is. The conductor. Not in flesh, but in light. Outline glowing gold against the blue. Coat made of mist and sunlight. Hat tipped just enough to be unmistakable. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. You feel his words move through the air like the whisper of a whistle. Still keeping time, passenger number 9? You smile, trying to. He gestures toward the horizon. Below, the town hums with life. Children's laughter rises like steam. Lanterns sway gently even in daylight. And somewhere, a baker opens his window just to let the smell of sugar escape. The conductor nods, his form flickering with the rhythm of the wind. Looks like the line's in good hands. You squint at him. You said we'd all be on the same schedule eventually. He grins, light crackling around his face like static made of kindness. And here you are, early for once. You laugh quietly, the sound carrying farther than you expect. The sky seems to catch it and keep it. The conductor reaches into the light beside him. When his hand emerges, he's holding a small piece of folded paper. Your old brass ticket now made of light and air. He holds it out toward you. It drifts down slowly, fluttering like a leaf until it lands in your palm. The words shimmer faintly. Admit one, for as long as there's wonder. You run your thumb across the letters. They hum faintly under your touch like rails warming under a new engine. You look up, but he's already fading. The clouds fold back into themselves, the light softens, and the wind quiets. Still, you can hear him. That low, steady voice made of memory. Keep the line open. You stand, ticket glowing faintly in your hand. It doesn't burn. It warms. When you turn back toward the town, everything looks a little brighter. Not new, just awake. People are hanging garlands from rooftops, planting flowers between the cobblestones, fixing fences not because they're broken, but because they can. You smile. They're doing exactly what passengers always do when the train has taught them how to travel without rails. You tuck the ticket into your coat pocket, feeling it pulse softly once, then settle. The Polar Express has gone, but its echo hums in every step, every word, every warm breath rising into the spring air. As the sun climbs higher, you whisper toward the clouds, "Until next Christmas." And far above, a single whistle answers, gentle, joyful, endless. The rails may have vanished, but the route is eternal. It lives in sound, in story, in every hand that dares to light a lantern against the longest night. Afternoon spills gold across the town, and for the first time since you can remember, the light doesn't hurt your eyes. It just rests. Gentle, familiar, as if it knows you've earned it. You walk the narrow streets, past shops that smell of bread and pine, past windows where laughter curls like smoke. The town hums like a clock in perfect rhythm, every tick a reminder that time can heal if given patience. You stop at the fountain again. The lantern's blue flame is smaller now but steadier, burning the way peace does. Not bright, just constant. The flower the little girl placed there this morning has bloomed wide open. Its petals reflect both sky and water, shimmering between white and gold. You reach out to touch it, and when your fingers brush its surface, you hear it. The faint chime of bells, far away but rising, threading through the air like the memory of a hymn. It's not the train, it's the world. Still singing, still running without needing rails anymore. A small crowd gathers in the square, children, parents, shopkeepers, all drawn by that sound. They listen in silence, heads tilted upward, smiles soft and knowing. Someone begins to hum along a simple tune, half lullaby, half prayer. Then another joins, and another. Before long, the whole town is singing. No words, no melody that can be written down, just tones woven together like threads of warm light. A harmony born not from practice, but from shared relief. You join them, your voice quiet but sure. It feels less like sound, more like exhaling something you've carried too long. The fountain ripples with the vibration. The lantern's flame flickers higher. Even the cobblestones seem to pulse faintly beneath your boots. For a moment, the entire world hums in one key. And in that harmony, you hear it again. That soft, steady rhythm. The echo of wheels turning somewhere beyond the horizon. You open your eyes and look at the sky. It's vast and pale, painted with the same color as forgiveness. A faint shimmer moves across it, like rails made of light folding into clouds. You don't need to see them clearly to know what they are. They're traveling, not to the North Pole, not to magic, but to every heart that still remembers warmth. You smile. The Polar Express didn't disappear. It dissolved into belief, into sound, into you. The conductor's voice lingers faintly in memory. Every traveler keeps one lantern burning. You look around the square. Every window now glows faintly blue, each one lit by someone who didn't want the night to forget its stars. And in that moment you realize this town isn't a stop, it's a station. And everyone here is waiting not for a train, but for each other. The song fades into laughter. Children dance through puddles, adults lean against doorways smiling, and the bells ring softly in the breeze. You take one slow breath, close your eyes and whisper, "Keep running." The wind carries it upward. The clouds shimmer once more. And far beyond sight, the light of a single headlamp flickers. Not approaching, not leaving, just continuing. Night doesn't fall anymore, it arrives. Quietly, kindly, like a friend knocking instead of thunder breaking the door. The lamps along the street ignite one by one, their flames a shade of blue so soft it feels like dusk is whispering a lullaby. The whole town glows with that same hue, the color of mercy remembered. You walk to the edge of the square where the air tastes of pine and rain. The people gather again, carrying lanterns made from glass jars, tin frames, and even hollowed-out apples strung with candles. No one tells them what to do. They just know. The bell beside the fountain rings once, a single clean note. The crowd stills. A boy steps forward. The same one with the mittens, grown just enough that the world seems smaller to him. He lifts his lantern high. "For the passengers," he says softly. "For the ones who got us home," the crowd murmurs, echoing his words. "For the passengers." And one by one they place their lanterns along the old path where the tracks used to run. The flame in each jar flickers to life, stretching into a glowing line that curves toward the horizon. The rails may be gone, but their shape remains, made of light this time, not iron. You watch in silence as the line extends farther and farther, a soft serpent of gold threading through the night. The people hum, a low tone that sounds like the earth itself is remembering its rhythm. For a moment you see it again. The faint glimmer of the Polar Express riding that path of lanterns, its carriages made of light, its windows full of faces that no longer need to be saved. The conductor's voice echoes somewhere deep in your chest. Warmth is the only timetable worth keeping. You smile. He was right. The boy approaches you, holding a small jar in both hands. Inside, a tiny candle dances like a heartbeat. He offers it to you. Yours, he says. You kneel, take it carefully. The glass is warm, and inside the flame swirls faint traces of blue, the same color that once burned through the snowstorm. Thank you, you whisper. He grins. My mama says stories never end if someone keeps a light on. You chuckle. She's smarter than most conductors. He laughs and runs back to his family, his boots scattering frost that glows faintly under the lantern light. You set your jar on the ground beside the others. The flame joins the glowing path, and together the lanterns form a trail that hums softly, a sound like wind through chimes, like tracks rediscovering their purpose. Somewhere beyond the trees, a faint whistle answers, not sharp, not sorrowful, just enough to make the stars tremble. The crowd doesn't look up. They don't need to. They already know what it means. You close your eyes and let the sound wash through you. The lanterns flicker in rhythm with your breath. The rails may have melted, but the light remembers where they were. And that's enough. The bells ring one last time, a soft cascade of notes that drift upward and dissolve into the night. The flames keep burning. The wind keeps singing. The warmth keeps living. And somewhere far above, a train made of light and memory rides across the stars, guided not by coal or steam, but by every lantern left lit by those who finally learned to rest. The night deepens until it feels infinite, a velvet ocean lit by hundreds of small, steady lanterns. Their light moves like breath, rising and falling with the quiet rhythm of the town asleep. You sit by the fountain, listening to the faint hiss of water thawing beneath its frozen surface. The flame inside your lantern dances low, its reflection stretching across the cobblestones like a painted memory. The bells have gone silent now. The air hums softly, as if waiting for a sound that hasn't yet remembered itself. Then you hear it. A low, resonant tone, so deep it feels like it's coming from inside the earth. The fountain ripples, the flame wavers, and the world seems to lean closer, as though preparing to whisper a secret. The square begins to glow faintly blue. The light gathers in lines, thin, straight, familiar. It traces itself through the streets, curling around corners, connecting doors and windows like constellations drawn on cobblestone. Rails, but not metal. Light, soft and pulsing, threading through the heart of the town. The lanterns flicker brighter as the rails connect. You can feel it, the pull of motion. Not forward, not backward, but through. Somewhere far off, a whistle sounds, gentle, weary, patient. You close your eyes. The sound isn't calling you this time. It's thanking you. You realize what's happening. The train isn't returning. The world is becoming the train. Every light, every heartbeat, every breath of mercy, all part of the same quiet motion. A soft voice breaks the silence. You've kept good time. You turn. The librarian stands in the lantern light, her white coat glowing faintly like paper catching fire in slow motion. I thought you were gone, you say. I was, but endings have a way of looping back for applause. You laugh softly. It echoes against the stone like wind through leaves. She looks around the square, eyes bright and reflective. They're connected now. Every story that burned too early, every name that melted into snow, they're all part of the line again. You nod. It's beautiful. She tilts her head. No, not yet, but it will be once it forgets to try. You watch as the rails of light pulse in gentle rhythm, spreading outward through the streets, beyond the trees, toward the horizon. Somewhere in that far distance, you know the Polar Express rides again, not as metal but as movement itself. The librarian steps beside you. Do you hear it? You listen. Beneath the hum, beneath the wind, there's a new sound. Not the whistle, not the bells. A heartbeat. 2 beats. Then silence. Then 2 again. Like footsteps. Like rhythm. Like life continuing. She smiles. The world's on schedule again. You glance at her. What happens now? She looks upward. You rest. Then when someone somewhere needs the story again, you'll wake, you'll guide. You take a breath. The air tastes like rain and candle smoke. You whisper, "Then I'll keep listening." The librarian nods. That's all a keeper ever needs to do. The rails glow brighter, then fade gently into the earth, leaving behind only the echo of their hum, a lullaby made of motion. And in that sound, you hear it again, the quiet truth that every believer eventually learns. You never really left the train. You just became part of the track. The hum fades into quiet, and the town exhales like it's been holding its breath for a century. The blue light of the rails sinks beneath the ground, leaving faint trails that shimmer for a heartbeat, then vanish like dream ink under sunrise. You stay seated beside the fountain, hands resting on your knees, the warmth of the lantern soaking into your palms. The librarian hasn't moved. Her eyes are closed and her lips move silently, reading something only she can see. You lean closer. "What are you saying?" She opens one eye, amused. "Not saying. Listening. To what?" She gestures toward the ground. "The rails. They're speaking." At first you hear nothing. Then a vibration, low and uneven, like an old phonograph finding its groove. The cobblestones hum. The puddles ripple. And slowly, words begin to rise from the earth itself, spoken in hundreds of different voices, layered, interwoven, alive. "We arrived. We forgave. We stayed warm." The voices echo softly through the square, then blend into melody, a tone both human and not, fragile as frost, endless as forgiveness. You feel tears in your eyes before you realize you're crying, not sadness, recognition. They aren't ghosts, they're memories, the passengers. Their voices run along invisible tracks through the town, folding around doorways, threading through chimneys, curling into every corner like sunlight through lace. The librarian smiles. They never left. They just learned how to whisper instead of wail. The air glows faintly gold now, as though each word spoken turns to light and drifts upward. The lanterns on the streets flare once, then steady, as if fueled by the sound. You whisper into the hum, testing your own voice. What happens to them now? The librarian looks at you, her expression unreadable but soft. They become weather, music, memory, whatever the world needs most. She crouches beside the fountain, runs her fingertips along the water's edge. The ripples that form are luminous, reflecting not faces but scenes. Children playing in snow that doesn't hurt. Trains that glide through clouds made of laughter. Fire that warms instead of devours. You reach toward the water, touch one of the images. It vibrates under your hand, and a warmth spreads through your skin. A voice drifts up from the reflection, small, familiar, certain. "We made it home." You close your eyes. The sound fills your chest until it's almost unbearable. Then it softens, becomes heartbeat, becomes quiet. The librarian stands, straightening her coat, looking toward the horizon where the rails once ran. "It's done," she says simply. You wipe your face, smiling through the ache. It doesn't feel like an ending. It isn't. She glances back at you. It's a pause between chapters. You nod, letting the silence settle between you like a shared breath. Above, the first stars appear, each one glowing the same pale gold as the lantern flame. The voices fade into the wind, their echo stretching outward, not lost, just becoming. And for the first time, you understand the train's true destination. It wasn't a place at all. It was a tone, a rhythm, a shared song. The Polar Express didn't carry passengers to the North Pole. It carried stories toward each other, until every name, every voice, every lost warmth finally rhymed. You whisper to the sky, "Thank you for staying." The wind replies with a sound halfway between a sigh and a bell. It lingers in the air, a single note of promise that never truly stops. And the town sleeps, alive, dreaming of snow that will always melt in time. Morning again, but softer this time, like the world forgot how to rush. You wake to the sound of birdsong stitched with faint chimes, the sort of melody that doesn't belong to any instrument. It belongs to memory. The town glows under the light of early spring. The snow has surrendered completely, but the air still holds the ghost of winter. That clean, sharp smell that whispers, "Don't forget." You rise from the fountain's edge. The cobblestones are damp, reflecting the lanterns that still burn. their flames steady and patient. The librarian is gone. Only her footprints remain, faint and glowing for a few steps before vanishing into nothing. You smile. It feels right that she left quietly, like punctuation that doesn't need to be read aloud. You wander through the square. Everywhere, life hums. A seamstress pins ribbons to a clothesline, each one fluttering like a prayer flag. The baker hums a lullaby while sweeping melted sugar from his doorstep. The child with the mittens has outgrown them, but keeps one in his pocket, for luck. Each person you pass nods to you without surprise, as if they've always known you belonged here. Perhaps they have. At the edge of town, a new sign has been nailed into the post that once bore the word home. It reads, "All stations are temporary." You laugh under your breath. It's not a warning, it's an invitation. Beyond the town lies the meadow. The rails of light have faded again, but the earth still remembers their warmth. The flowers bloom brighter than before, their petals catching sunlight in the same rhythm that steam once pulsed. You kneel, run your hand through the grass. It hums faintly beneath your palm, and for a heartbeat, you feel the train moving beneath it. Not metal on metal, but heartbeat to heartbeat. When you close your eyes, you can almost hear the conductor's voice again. No destination lasts forever, but every stop leaves something behind. You whisper back, "Then I'll stay a while." The air answers with the faintest, happiest whistle. You stand looking toward the horizon. The clouds stretch wide and white, shaped like rails bending into eternity. And for a moment, the sky itself feels alive. A map drawn in motion, connecting every story that ever tried to end too early. You realize you could walk forever and never be lost now, because the world has turned itself into a network of soft arrivals. Every breath, every apology, every warm laugh is a platform waiting to welcome you. You are home everywhere. Back in the square, someone begins to sing again, low, sweet, and unhurried. A tune about snow that learned mercy, about fires that stayed gentle, about trains that forgot how to crash. You hum along without meaning to. The melody moves through you like the last whisper of a dream that decides to stay awake a little longer. And when the final note fades into the sky, you realize the truth. Christmas never ended. It just became the way the world forgives itself, over and over, every time warmth finds its way home. By evening, the sky burns rose and gold, the kind of light that looks too fragile to survive but always does. You stand once more at the fountain's edge, watching the lantern's flame dance against the oncoming dusk. The town behind you hums with quiet joy. No music, no celebration, just life moving at a rhythm that feels earned. You pull your coat tighter and sit, listening to the familiar creak of old wood and shifting stone. Every sound feels sacred now, like proof that the world decided to keep existing. The lantern flickers. You lean closer. Inside, the blue flame tilts, splitting for a heartbeat into two. One soft gold, one clear white, then weaving together again. You smile. That flicker is the story, retelling itself every time someone breathes nearby. The boy with the mittens, now taller, bolder, appears beside you. He's holding a bell, not brass, glass. Inside it, a wisp of light drifts lazily, like smoke that never learned to fade. He sits beside you without asking, a gesture too natural to feel strange. "My dad says you're the one who made the trains stop burning," he says. You chuckle. "I just remembered they could cool down." He studies the bell, turning it slowly in his hands. "Will it ring if I shake it?" You nod. "If you still believe in what it means." He looks at you, thoughtful. "And what does it mean?" You tilt your head. "Depends who's listening." He grins, small, mischievous, the kind of grin that only children and forgiven souls share. Then he shakes the bell. It doesn't clang. It sings. A note so pure it seems to reach beyond sound, stretching through the air until even the fading sunlight trembles. All around the square, windows flare bright blue for a heartbeat, as though the flame in every home just remembered where it came from. When the echo fades, the boy looks down at the bell, wide-eyed. "I didn't mean to do that." You smile. "You didn't do it. You reminded it how." He studies the bell again. "Can I keep it?" You nod. "But promise me something." He straightens. "Anything." When it stops glowing, don't try to make it shine again. Just listen. If you can still hear its song, that's enough. He nods solemnly. Then he stands, tucking the bell into his coat pocket, and runs back toward the lamplight, his footsteps scattering sparks of frost that light up before vanishing. The square is quiet again. The lantern's blue flame burns steady. You look up at the sky. The first stars wink awake, each one faintly golden, as if catching the reflection of that glass bell's note. For a long time you just sit there watching the world remember itself one flicker at a time, and then, far away, so faint you could mistake it for the wind, a whistle sounds. Not a call, a greeting, a reminder. You whisper to the air, still on schedule. The wind shifts and the lantern's flame leans toward you, brightening just enough to light your face. You close your eyes, and in that warmth, you realize something simple, final, and true. No one ever stops riding the Polar Express. They just become the light it follows. The next morning, the town smells of cinnamon and soil. Mist drifts low through the streets, curling between houses like a secret returning home. You walk quietly, boots brushing through grass that sparkles with melted frost. Everywhere you look, bells hang from windows, trees, and rooftops. Not shining or polished, just present. They don't ring in unison anymore. They murmur. Soft chimes scattered across the air, the language of peace speaking to itself. At the fountain, the lantern's flame is smaller now, but it burns with a color you've never seen before. A deep, warm silver, as if the night sky condensed into a single heartbeat. You touch the edge of the stone. It's warm, alive, still humming faintly with the rhythm of the rails buried beneath the earth. Then you notice something strange. The puddles around the square are glowing faintly blue, and inside their reflections you see lines, thin, curving, interconnected lines of light stretching outward in every direction. You kneel, leaning closer. It's not just reflection. It's a map. Tiny points flicker across its surface, villages, forests, mountains, and running through them all, like veins through glass, are rails made entirely of light. The librarian's voice echoes in your head, soft and certain. Every story that forgives becomes a station. You trace a line with your finger. When you do, one of the points flares brighter. A small house in the middle of a vast white plain. Inside that light you glimpse something. A family sitting by a fire, a child holding a bell to their ear, listening to a sound you can almost hear. You exhale slowly. It's working. The warmth is traveling. The Polar Express isn't a single train anymore. It's thousands, invisible. Every heartbeat a whistle, every act of kindness another track laid down in secret. The boy with the glass bell appears behind you. He kneels beside the puddle, eyes wide. What is it? You smile. A map of everyone who remembers warmth. He grins. Then we're not the only ones. No, you whisper. We never were. He traces one glowing line. I wonder where it goes. You glance at him, then the horizon. Everywhere it's needed. The mist begins to lift. As sunlight filters through, the map ripples and fades, its light sinking back into the earth. The boy frowns. Is it gone? You shake your head. No, it just learned to hide better. He tilts his head. Why? So the cold can't find it. He smiles, satisfied with that answer. Then he runs toward the square, his laughter scattering through the morning like chimes caught in wind. You watch him go, the bell in his pocket jingling faintly with each step. And for a moment, the sound threads perfectly with the hum of the hidden rails beneath your feet. The map might fade, the snow might fall again, but the pattern will never break, because warmth has direction now, and no matter how far the journey stretches, you know what the route spells if you could see it from above. A heart, drawn in rails of light, pulsing forever between belief and forgiveness. The morning stretches longer than it should, like time itself wants to stay and watch. You walk beyond the fountain, past the last houses where the town dissolves into meadow. The grass hums softly beneath your boots, a sound you recognize instantly. Not rails, not wind, but pulse. You follow it until the land begins to rise, and there, on the crest of the hill, you see them. Rails. Not of iron, not buried, but blooming. thin stems of silver light that weave through the grass, curling into the shape of a massive beating heart. Each pulse sends ripples of warmth outward, carrying whispers through the air. They aren't words exactly, they're feelings, laughter, relief, the sound of forgiveness stretching its arms. You stand at the edge of that light, hands trembling, because you realize what you're seeing. The world has learned how to keep time on its own. The train no longer needs to move. It is movement now. The boy with the bell joins you, panting from the climb. He stops, wide-eyed. Whoa. You nod. It's what happens when the story stops being told and starts being remembered. He holds up his glass bell, and the light from the heart reflects through it, casting fragments of color across the air. Each flicker becomes a scene, a child opening their window to the snow, a mother lighting a candle, a stranger handing their scarf to someone cold, all of them connected by invisible rails, all of them traveling the same line. The boy watches the images fade. It's beautiful. You smile. It's alive. A breeze passes through the meadow. The flowers bow. The rails hum louder, their light syncing perfectly with your heartbeat. For a moment, you feel the pull, the same weightless sensation that always came before the train appeared. But instead of smoke and whistle, you feel warmth rise through you, a vibration from the ground up to your chest. The boy looks at you nervously. Are you okay? You nod slowly. I think it's just saying goodbye. He frowns. But nothing's leaving. You smile softly. Exactly. The light begins to change. The silver fades to gold, and the heart's outline softens, each beat slower, deeper, calmer. In the distance, thunder rolls. Not storm, just sky remembering rhythm. The boy tugs your sleeve. Will it stop? You shake your head. No. It'll rest for a while, then start again somewhere else. That's what hearts do. He leans against you, watching as the last threads of light fold into the soil. When they vanish, the hum lingers, low, warm, eternal. You look up. The clouds above the meadow part, revealing a band of light arcing across the horizon. It shimmers faintly, and for a moment, you could swear it's the silhouette of a train. The Heartline Express moving without smoke, without sound, made entirely of memory and mercy. You whisper to it, voice barely a breath. Keep going. And somewhere deep in the glow, a single playful whistle answers, as if the universe itself just winked at you. The boy laughs. Did you hear that? You grin. Every time. The wind stills, the warmth stays, and the hill hums quietly beneath you. A promise written not in tracks, but in pulse. For the first time in eternity, the story doesn't need to end, because endings, you finally understand, are just stations where the light stops long enough to let someone else climb aboard. The next dawn arrives with a silence so complete it feels sacred. No bells, no hum, just air. Pure, unbroken, forgiving air. You stand on the hill overlooking the town, the meadow below glowing faintly with dew. The rails of light are gone, but the shape they left behind, the curve of that luminous heart, is still visible in the grass like a ghost made of warmth instead of fear. The boy sits beside you, hugging his knees. His glass bell rests in the grass, its light dimmer now but still pulsing gently, as though it's listening to the heartbeat of the earth. Do you think it's really gone? He asks quietly. You smile. Trains don't disappear. They just learn new ways to travel. He glances up at you, eyes curious. So where is it now? You look at the horizon. The clouds there shimmer faintly, like the air itself remembers a whistle. Everywhere, you say softly. It's in the way people wake each morning and try again. It's in the hands that light candles when they don't have to. It's in the warmth that shows up when no one asked for it. The boy nods slowly. I think I can still hear it. You close your eyes. So can I. The wind rises gently, carrying the scent of rain mixed with wood smoke. When you open your eyes again, you see the faintest shimmer tracing the horizon, a thin silver line that bends, disappears, then reappears farther along, like lightning learning patience. It moves with grace, slow and certain, always forward. The Heartline Express. Not gone, just migrating. You can feel it in your chest. That soft, rhythmic pull, not calling you to follow, but inviting you to remember. Behind you, the town stirs awake. A rooster crows. Doors creak open. The sound of water being poured, bread being sliced, laughter whispered between people who survived the long night. You watch them from the hilltop, and it hits you. This is what arrival looks like. No miracles, no explosions of light, just life continuing without apology. The boy picks up his bell, holds it to his ear. It's quieter now. You nod. Good. That means it's resting. He squints toward the horizon. When it starts again, do you think it'll remember us? You grin. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to make new stories. He thinks about that for a long time. Then he smiles. That's fair. The sun climbs higher, its reflection spilling across the damp grass like molten gold. The light catches on the bell in his hand, casting a perfect circle of blue around you both. For a brief second you can see shapes inside it. Faces, laughter, a train curving through snow, a conductor tipping his hat. Then the light fades, leaving only the boy, the bell, and the hum of a world that forgave itself. You take a slow breath. The air feels like music, and when you exhale, the horizon exhales with you. A shimmer, a pulse, a memory moving forward one last time. You whisper to the morning, keep them warm. And the wind replies in kind, a single familiar note that rises and dissolves into sunlight. The Polar Express is gone, but its warmth, its promise, is permanent. By midday, the sky has melted into gold. The meadow hums with bees, and the last traces of frost have become water that mirrors the light. You lie back on the hill, hands behind your head, watching the clouds drift by in long, lazy ribbons. The boy with the glass bell has gone back to town, leaving you alone with the sound of the wind through the grass. But it isn't lonely. It's restful, a silence that feels earned. You close your eyes. For a moment, you expect to hear the whistle again. Instead, what reaches you is smaller. The sound of the world breathing, the grass shifting, the earth cooling, the quiet hum of the rails beneath memory. It's all there, just softer, like the story itself decided to whisper. You think of the conductor, of the librarian, of the passengers who once filled the carriages with fear and wonder. Each one, a note in the same long song. Their voices are still here, not as ghosts, but as warmth that clings to the edges of air. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear them talking. Keep the line open. Don't let the warmth go dark. Every story deserves another station. The words aren't commands, they're blessings. You open your eyes again. The light has shifted. It falls across the meadow like the soft glow of lanterns reflected on snow. Even the shadows are kind now. You sit up, brush grass from your coat, and reach into your pocket. The old brass ticket, no, not brass anymore, but light folded into memory, rests there. Its letters shimmer faintly. Admit one. For as long as there's wonder. You turn it over between your fingers. It doesn't hum anymore. It just waits. Calm. Patient. You realize something then. This isn't your ticket to ride. It's your permission to remember. To listen when the world goes quiet. To see light where others see only snow. To keep the rails open, not with motion, but with stillness. The Polar Express doesn't need you to travel anymore. It needs you to stay. To be the one who keeps the warmth lit until the next traveler forgets how to find it. You stand, looking toward the horizon. The faint shimmer of the Heartline Express lingers just above the edge of the sky. Its light is smaller now, but steady, like a promise left on a nightstand. You raise the ticket toward it, letting the sunlight shine through. The letters vanish, and for one heartbeat, the paper glows like a bell about to ring. Then it dissolves, not into ashes, into light, into everything. You lower your hand. The wind stirs the grass, and you hear it, a single distant echo of laughter. The conductor, the librarian, maybe even yourself. It fades, leaving only peace. You walk back toward the town, the path glowing faintly beneath your steps. Every footprint hums with light for a second before fading, a new kind of rail drawn in motion, alive in silence. And you understand, finally, that being the keeper of quiet tracks isn't about where you go. It's about what follows after you. You whisper to the world, soft and sure, next stop, whoever needs it. and the air, faithful as ever, answers with the faintest sound of wheels turning in the distance. The train runs on, and this time it runs through you. It begins with a chill, not the cruel kind, not the kind that steals your breath, but the kind that stirs memory, a gentle reminder that even warmth needs contrast to stay alive. You stand at the window of your small house on the hill, watching the sky shift. The horizon blurs with clouds the color of steel and candlelight. The first snow of the new season drifts down, soft, hesitant, as though testing whether it's still welcome. You smile. It is. The flakes melt the moment they touch the ground, but they fall anyway, undaunted, like believers in their own impermanence. You breathe in deeply. The air tastes the same as it did that first night. Iron, pine, and wonder. The scent of a story reopening itself. The town below is different now. The people don't fear the snow anymore, they welcome it. Children stand in the streets with their tongues out, catching flakes and laughing as though tasting forgotten words. Every door glows with a lantern, every window strung with small brass bells that chime softly in the wind. It's not a celebration, it's a ritual, a way of saying, we remember. You watch as the boy, no longer a boy but tall, strong, a young man now, walks through the square carrying a bundle of small glass bells. He hangs them from the fountain, each one catching light from the lantern's eternal flame. When he finishes, he looks up toward your window, and even from here, you see him grin. You raise your hand in greeting. He lifts one of the bells and shakes it gently. The sound reaches you, a high, pure note that rings through the cold air like truth made audible. You turn from the window, walk to the fireplace. Your coat hangs by the door, your boots beside it. You won't need them tonight. On the mantel sits the glass lantern you once carried from the square. Its blue flame flickers low, reflecting in the brass frame like a pulse slowed to contentment. You run a thumb along the edge of the glass. It's warm, always warm. Above it hangs your old ticket framed in wood. The letters have faded completely, but the paper still glows faintly in the dark. Sometimes you swear it hums when the wind picks up. Outside, the snow begins to fall thicker now. Each flake seems to linger longer in the air, spinning like a thought too beautiful to let go of. You step closer to the fire, listening to the rhythm of the logs crackling. It almost sounds like a train on distant tracks. Not roaring, not rushing, just existing. You smile. Still on schedule, you whisper. The flame in the lantern flickers higher. A gust of wind moves through the chimney, and for one fleeting heartbeat you hear it, a whistle, soft, familiar, playful. You don't need to look, you know what it means. It isn't calling you away. It's saying hello. Because every time the first snow falls, the rails light up again. Not in iron or light, but in hearts that learned how to stay warm without fire. You step back to the window, watch as snow begins to blanket the meadow. Somewhere in the drifting white, you could swear you see movement, a shimmer, a flicker, a train passing quietly through the memory of what it used to be. You bow your head slightly, a silent greeting to an old friend. And when you look up again, the sky itself seems to whisper back, "Welcome home, passenger number 9." The snow deepens by nightfall. It doesn't fall in flakes anymore. It drifts, spiraling gently like 1,000 small pages finding where they belong. You sit by the fire, the old brass clock ticking softly beside the lantern. Each tick feels slower than the one before it, as if time itself is learning to rest again. Outside, the town glows beneath a blanket of white. The bells on rooftops sing in the wind. Not a carol, not a hymn, just the sound of metal remembering music. The young man walks through the square, his footprints filling with light that fades only when the next flake falls. Every few steps, he stops to check the lanterns. Each one still burns, the flames steady and patient. You watch him from your window, and for the first time, you realize he moves like the conductor. Steady, certain, carrying warmth from door to door. The line never broke. It just changed hands. You pour yourself a cup of cocoa, steam rising like thoughts you're not quite ready to say aloud. The mug warms your palms, and in the quiet between breaths, you hear something faint. A hum beneath the floorboards. The same tone that once vibrated through the Polar Express. The rails are still here, invisible, hidden beneath years of peace. You set the cup down, stand, and step outside. The air bites, but softly. The kind of cold that sharpens your senses instead of numbing them. Snow crunches under your boots. The sound is perfect, predictable, rhythmic. You make your way toward the fountain. Its surface is frozen now, but the flame in its center still burns, a single blue heartbeat in a sea of white. Around it, the young man's glass bells glow faintly from within, each one alive with a light of its own. You reach out to touch one, and when your fingers brush the glass, you hear it. A whisper, not in your ear, in your chest. We remember you. You close your eyes. The voice isn't one person. It's hundreds, thousands, every passenger, every believer, every life the rails once carried through the dark. Their gratitude hums through your veins, soft and steady, until it feels like your pulse has found company again. When you open your eyes, you notice something new. The snow has stopped falling, but it hasn't vanished. It hovers in the air, suspended, glowing faintly like frozen breath caught in sunlight. Each flake moves slightly as if alive, and then they begin to drift together. They form lines, curves, shapes, rails, not solid ones, ghost rails, drawn in snow and light, stretching from the fountain through the square up the hill and into the horizon. You laugh quietly, half disbelief, half joy. I thought you'd gone. A breeze moves through the town, carrying the faint sound of laughter. The conductor's voice, distant and amused. Schedules are flexible when the story's good. You shake your head, smiling. Always late, old friend. Always on time, the wind replies. The rails glow brighter for one heartbeat, then fade again, leaving only the untouched snow. The world exhales. You do too. And for a moment you know, this isn't a haunting. It's a hello. The snow falls once more, lighter now, as if the sky itself just smiled. Each flake that lands seems to whisper the same thing, soft and certain. Passenger number 9. Not a number, a name the world remembers. You bow your head, let one flake melt on your palm and whisper back, still here. The wind answers with the sound of distant rails warming under starlight. The snow stops just before dawn. A pale blue hush settles over everything, the kind of silence that means something's listening. You wake before the fire dies, the embers pulsing faintly like the slow heartbeat of an old engine. The world outside your window glows with that impossible stillness, the kind that feels earned, the kind that only arrives when a story refuses to stop breathing. You step outside, coat unbuttoned, boots crunching through powder that sparkles like glass dust. The air carries no wind, no chill, only quiet anticipation. Somewhere beyond the horizon you hear it, a hum low and familiar, vibrating through the bones of the earth. It isn't loud, it isn't urgent. It's the sound of something returning the right way this time. You climb the hill, overlooking the town. The lanterns still burn below, their glow warm against the snow. The fountain flickers blue, and above it all, the sky. The stars aren't scattered tonight. They've lined themselves into a perfect arc, stretching from one edge of the world to the other. A bridge of light, a track, the star line. You remember the librarian's words, "When the story learns to listen, the sky will answer." And here it is, a railway written in constellations, alive. You smile without realizing it. "It's back," you whisper. A voice, gentle as breath, answers from nowhere and everywhere at once. It never left. The sound grows stronger. Not a whistle this time. A chord. 3 perfect notes rising through the cold air, woven with warmth, resonant enough to make the snow tremble. You can feel it move through you. Each note vibrates with meaning, not words, but certainty. The first says, home. The second, mercy. The third, again. The starline brightens, and one by one the constellations begin to shift, their light flowing like liquid across the night. You realize the stars aren't just forming rails, they're forming faces. Faint luminous faces, passengers you once knew smiling down, their eyes reflecting the same warmth you carried through the storm. The conductor stands among them, hat tilted, grinning like someone who knew this would happen all along. You laugh through tears. "I thought you were gone for good." His voice carries through the sky, made of starlight and humor. "Trains don't vanish, kid. They change timetables. You wipe your face with your sleeve. Where's the next stop? Wherever the next believer gets cold. You nod, feeling the truth settle deep in your chest. The star line flickers again, and from the heart of it, a soft trail of light begins to descend, like snow made of music. It falls gently toward the earth, each spark landing in a lantern, a window, a sleeping hand. The world begins to glow from the inside out. You kneel, scoop up a handful of snow, watching as one of the glowing flakes melts into your palm. It leaves behind a faint warmth, not fire, not light, but feeling, connection. And when you look up again, the sky pulses once more, a single resounding heartbeat across the heavens. You whisper to the stars, voice trembling but sure, keep the line open. And this time the sky answers not with echo but with laughter. The joyful, unstoppable sound of the Polar Express finding its rhythm again. The star line hums above you, a living ribbon of constellations glowing brighter by the second. Every pulse sends a wave of warmth through the air, soft enough to make the snow sigh where it falls. You stand on the hill, eyes fixed on the horizon where the light bends down toward the earth. The stars are moving. They flow in steady rhythm, tracing a shape that grows more defined with every heartbeat, an outline too familiar to mistake. The Polar Express, but not of smoke or steel. This one is made of sky, an ethereal locomotive woven from constellations, its carriages formed by clusters of light that shimmer like frozen songs. It glides across the heavens, wheels turning slow and soundless, steam replaced by soft bursts of stardust. Wherever it passes, the night blooms brighter. You laugh quietly. Of course you'd upgrade. The conductor's voice carries from the heavens, half a joke, half a promise. No fuel shortage this time. The boy, now the young man, appears at your side, his breath visible in the cold. He stares upward, speechless. What is that? You glance at him. Proof that the story refuses to end. He watches, eyes wide, as the Starline Express curves above the town, its wheels cutting paths of light that linger long after it's gone. The air hums with joy. The bells on every roof ring on their own, each one struck by invisible rhythm. Windows open, people spill into the streets, looking up in wonder. Their faces glow in the starlight, ordinary, imperfect, alive. The conductor's voice rolls like distant thunder, playful, commanding, kind. All aboard, if you're willing to believe you already arrived. The crowd laughs, children pointing at the train overhead. Someone claps, someone else starts to hum. The entire town becomes a choir, voices rising into the open sky, each note another carriage on the infinite track. You look at the young man beside you. Go ahead, you say. Make it ring. He grins, pulling the glass bell from his pocket. It glows faintly blue, pulsing with the same rhythm as the stars. He shakes it once. The sound is pure light. It cuts through the night, rippling upward until it touches the star line. The instant it does, the train above flares brighter as though fueled by that single note of faith. And then something incredible happens. The stars begin to fall, not crashing, not burning, descending gently like petals from an unseen flower. Each one lands softly in a lantern, a palm, a window. Each one becomes a memory relit. The sky doesn't darken. It shares itself. The whole world glows. The young man's eyes fill with tears. Is it dying? He asks. You shake your head. No, it's arriving. You tilt your head back. Above, the conductor tips his hat one last time, his silhouette framed in silver flame. Line's clear, he says. Keep the lights burning. Passenger number 9. You salute the sky. Always. The star line begins to fade, the train dissolving back into constellations, its hum lingering like the aftertaste of a song too perfect to forget. One last whistle sounds. Soft, endless, sure. The world below answers, every bell, every flame, every heartbeat joining in the same eternal note. And as the final shimmer disappears beyond the clouds, the snow resumes its gentle fall, this time carrying warmth instead of cold. You whisper into the quiet, a smile touching your voice. Even the sky needed tracks. The wind carries your words upward, and far beyond sight, the stars ring back, a lullaby made of light and motion. The Polar Express rides again, and this time, it's everywhere. Morning returns as softly as forgiveness. The snow has stopped again, leaving behind a sheen of silver light that coats the rooftops like breath frozen mid-laughter. You stand outside your house, face lifted toward the lingering shimmer where the starline once burned. The sky looks calmer now, emptied but not empty, like a stage after the last echo of applause fades. The air hums faintly with the memory of the train's last whistle, not sound but vibration, a pulse that settles into everything, the lanterns, the trees, your chest. It's not gone, it's absorbed. The Polar Express no longer needs to travel through the world. It is the world now, its rhythm buried beneath everyday things, its warmth disguised as ordinary morning light. You smile. Every breath feels like motion. Every heartbeat feels like arrival. Down in the square, the young man is helping others hang new strings of bells along the eaves. They catch the sunlight, casting bright circular flares across the snow. You can hear their faint chiming even from here, notes weaving together in random harmony, messy, imperfect, alive. He looks up and waves. You wave back. Then he cups his hands and calls out, "Listen!" You pause, tilting your head. For a moment, all you hear is wind. Then you realize the wind itself is the bells, thousands of tiny tones blending into one long breath. You close your eyes. It's the same sound that once echoed through the train's carriages, that low, rhythmic hum that meant you were moving forward, even when you couldn't see where. The rails have changed form again, from light to memory to music. The librarian's voice drifts through your thoughts. When the story becomes air, no one ever has to chase it again. You nod to yourself, letting the words sink in like warmth through fabric. You can almost see her in your mind, cataloging the wind, smiling faintly every time someone mistakes grace for coincidence. A breeze sweeps through the town, lifting snow from rooftops and tossing it into the sunlight. For a heartbeat, each flake glows golden, miniature lanterns taking flight. They swirl upward, gathering speed until the whole sky seems to sparkle. It's not snow anymore, it's sound made visible. The bells ring faster, the air sings, and in that shimmering, luminous wind, you hear laughter. The conductor's voice, teasing, familiar. "Still keeping the line open, passenger number 9? You grin. "Someone has to." "Good. We've got company on the schedule." "Who?" "Everyone who ever waited for warmth to come back." The light shifts again. The bells settle into a slower rhythm. The wind calms, but the feeling remains. A vibration in your chest, gentle and sure. The train is still running, just not where you can see it. You can feel it in the rise and fall of breath, the pulse in your wrist, the way silence now carries its own song. You whisper toward the snow, "Keep them traveling safely," and the breeze responds with 100 tiny chimes, each one a voice saying yes. As you turn back toward your house, the sunlight cuts across your path, casting 2 faint lines of gold at your feet, rails just for a heartbeat before fading into the brightness of the day. You smile, because that's all the proof you'll ever need. That night, you dream without sleeping. It begins with sound. Not noise, not music, just rhythm. The low hum of rails turning, the soft chime of distant bells, the faint whisper of breath between echoes. You recognize it instantly. It's the same cadence that once rattled through carriages, the same pulse that stitched the world back together, one heartbeat at a time. Except now, it isn't outside you. It's within. The train no longer travels across the land. It travels through the spaces between your heartbeats, keeping time so softly you almost mistake it for stillness. You open your eyes, and the room around you flickers. Not waking world, not dream, something in between. The lantern by your bedside burns steady, its blue flame surrounded by tiny motes of gold that drift like dust made of stars. You reach out. The moment your finger brushes one, it dissolves into warmth, leaving a whisper behind. Line clear. You smile in your sleep. Always. The scene shifts. You're standing on the old meadow again. The rails of light hum beneath your feet, their glow steady and strong. The air tastes like pine and promise. The sky above you churns with slow-moving auroras, bands of green and gold that twist into the faint outline of the Polar Express. The conductor stands by the open carriage door, his face half in shadow, half in starlight. He grins. "Still wearing that ticket in your heart, I see." You chuckle. It doesn't seem to expire. He taps his hat. None of the good ones do. You walk toward the train, but this time, you stop before stepping aboard. The rails beneath your boots glow brighter, as if recognizing you. "You're not calling me back," you say. "This isn't a departure." The conductor nods. "Right. It's a check-in." He gestures toward the horizon. Beyond it, you see flashes of light, lanterns, hearths, 1,000 tiny fires lit across the world. "All the stations?" you ask. He smiles softly. "They're holding." You look at him. "Even after all this time?" He laughs under his breath. Warmth doesn't retire. He steps closer, his coat stirring in a wind you can't feel. "Listen carefully," he says. "The story's yours now, the rails beneath the town, the bells in the air, the lanterns on the hills. They're all following your heartbeat." You raise an eyebrow. "Mine?" He nods once. "As long as you keep believing, the world keeps turning on time." You laugh quietly. "Pressure much?" "Responsibility," he corrects, grinning. "But you've handled worse schedules." You take a breath. The hum beneath your feet syncs perfectly with your pulse. It feels natural, as if you were always meant to be the line itself. The conductor tips his hat. "Next time someone loses their way, just let them hear you breathe." You meet his gaze. "And that's enough?" He nods. "That's all the whistle ever was." You smile, and the air around you flickers with a sound so pure it almost breaks you. A whistle made of heartbeat and faith. The world folds gently back into itself. The stars above you spin, curling into a perfect circle of light. When you open your eyes again, you're back in your room. The lantern's flame has dimmed, but your pulse hums steady, each beat carrying the faintest echo of rails beneath it. You exhale slowly, and for one moment, just one, you hear the whistle again. Not in the distance. Inside. It's quiet, confident, eternal. You whisper to the dark, "Still running," and the darkness replies, warm and sure. Always. Morning arrives without sunrise. The light is already there when you wake, as though the world decided it no longer needs permission to begin. You sit up slowly. The air in your room hums with faint warmth, the kind that doesn't fade when you move. Outside, the snow glows silver gold, and the sky holds the color of candle smoke after a wish has already come true. The lantern by your bed flickers once, then steadies, casting a soft blue halo across the wall. The shape it makes looks like tracks curving into infinity. You smile, of course it does. You stand, stretch, and walk to the window. The town is quiet, not empty, just peaceful in the way finished songs are peaceful. Lanterns still burn in every window. Bells still hang from every rooftop. The fountain in the square has frozen mid-splash, its blue flame locked inside the ice like a memory preserved on purpose. It's beautiful, not because it moves, but because it doesn't need to. You dress slowly, pulling on your old coat, the one that still smells faintly of smoke and frost. The brass button you replaced years ago gleams like the moon. When you open the door, the cold greets you, like an old friend. Sharp at first, then gentle when it recognizes you. The snow crunches under your boots, each step sinking into a light that never quite goes out. You follow the old path toward the hill, the same path where rails once burned and vanished. Now it's lined with small lanterns buried halfway in snow, their flames still flickering, still breathing. Halfway up you pause. A single set of footprints follows behind you, and yet you don't remember walking alone. You turn. The young man, older now, face calm, eyes bright, stands a few paces back. He's holding his glass bell, and the light inside it swirls slow and steady. "Morning," he says softly. You grin. "Morning, conductor." He laughs. "Don't start that. I'm just keeping things tidy." You gesture at the town below. "You've done better than tidy." He looks down, smiling faintly. They still listen. Together, you climb the last few steps to the top of the hill. From there, the world spreads out before you. Town, meadow, horizon, and sky. The snow stretches on forever untouched, glowing faintly like a promise halfway kept. He turns to you, holding out the glass bell. I think it's time you took this back. You shake your head. No, you keep it. He frowns slightly. Why? You look toward the horizon where the faint shimmer of the starline still hums behind the clouds. Because you're next, you say quietly. Someone always is. He studies you for a long moment, then nods slowly. Where will you go? You smile. Wherever the story needs silence. He tilts his head, half amused, half sad. Will I see you again? You chuckle softly. You already do. You step aside, gesturing toward the open world before him. The wind stirs the snow, forming two thin lines of gold that fade into the distance. He looks down at them, then back at you. They still appear. You nod. They always will. Every time someone believes. He takes a deep breath, the kind you take before the first step of a long journey, and begins to walk. The rails hum faintly beneath his boots. You watch him go, his bell jingling once, bright and pure, cutting through the stillness like joy disguised as sound. The light from the horizon catches his outline, then swallows him completely. You stand alone on the hill, but not lonely. The wind picks up, carrying a faint echo, a whistle made not of metal or breath, but memory itself. You whisper to it, softly but sure, line clear, and somewhere far beyond sight, 1,000 bells answer. The horizon gleams brighter now, a soft, rolling light spreading across the snow until everything glows gold. It's not dawn, it's recognition. The wind quiets, and for a moment you can hear every heartbeat in the world line up. The sound isn't loud, it's gentle, like the whisper of an engine coasting at perfect speed. You close your eyes. The hill beneath you hums. The air smells faintly of iron and pine, but also of home. You whisper the same words that began it all, the same truth hidden in every bell, every flame, every snowfall. Not every Christmas has a destination. Some just keep you warm long enough to find one. The light around you deepens, turning the snow to honey. The air to breath you can almost see. You feel something moving through it. Not the train, not the conductor, but continuity. The feeling of everything that came before finding its rhythm in everything that will follow. You open your eyes and there they are, all of them. The passengers, the librarian, the conductor, the boy who grew into a keeper of bells. Even the snow itself, not ghosts, not memories, echoes made of warmth. Every one of them outlined in light, each face glowing with the quiet certainty of arrival. They don't speak. They don't need to. Their presence says everything. You did it. You kept the line open. The conductor steps forward, hat tipped low, grinning that same irreverent grin. End of the line, he says softly. For now. You chuckle. There's no such thing. He laughs. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. Behind him, the Polar Express glows faintly. Its form made of aurora and starlight hovering just above the snow, carriages filled with color instead of passengers. You walk to it slowly. The air around it hums with warmth, the sound of countless bells ringing at once, so quiet it feels like thought itself. He gestures to the door. Care to ride one last loop? You shake your head. I'm already aboard. He nods, satisfied. Then we're on time. He tips his hat, steps back into the train and fades into light. The Polar Express shimmers once, then dissolves into the sky like steam rising into heaven. The air goes still. The snow stops glowing, but the warmth remains. You turn toward the town. Its lanterns still burn. Its bells still whisper. The world has learned how to stay lit. You take one slow step, then another. Each footprint you leave behind fills with faint light before fading. Rails written not in metal or memory, but in faith. The hill hums quietly beneath you, and as you walk down toward the sleeping world, you realize something simple and eternal. You're not walking away from the story, you're walking within it, because the train never truly left the station. It just became the heartbeat of everyone who ever waited for morning. The final gust of wind carries the faintest echo, a whistle stretched across time, wrapped in laughter, ending in silence that feels complete. You look up at the sky one last time. The stars align into two thin lines of gold before scattering again. A signature, a farewell, a continuation. You whisper to the night, Good night, Polar Express. Keep them warm. And the night, faithful and infinite, replies with a sound smaller than a sigh, larger than the universe itself. Always. The snow falls once more, lest not to cover but to bless. The story sleeps, the warmth stays, the line is clear,